What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Table Setters, covering all things Major League Baseball. As always, I'm Steve, joined with the man who has a lot in common with Lillard, Tatum, and Halliburton. It's Mr. Devin Milligan. What's going on, man?
Not to mention Griffin Canning as well. Same night, actually. Welcome, everybody, episode 91. Unfortunately, it is my first time recording Table Setters without my right Achilles tendon intact, an injury that I would wish upon no man. But yes, I do now have something in common with all those great men that you spoke of.
So Devin came out of the tunnel for that basketball game with the American flag, all the pomp and circumstances, all the bright lights at the driveway, and pop goes the Achilles. Devin, I know you're rolling around and you're just starting your summer break as a teacher. It's not what you want, as they say, but I hope you're feeling better. I know you're on the mend a little bit, but you will be on the other side of a surgery by the time you guys will listen to this, maybe a week later, and then we'll discuss it as we go. But you're 365 days from feeling 100%.
Yeah, brutal, brutal, brutal. This is an injury. Every time I've seen it, like on TV, and the athlete suffers, I just think to myself, like, "Oh my God, that would be the worst." I've had a lot of injuries. I've had a lot of injuries in my life. I ruptured my hamstring like 13 years ago, like completely. I've like tweaked it several times since then. I tore my PCL randomly in college. That was a long time ago too. But this one is by far the most debilitating. Like I literally cannot put any weight at all on this leg. So I'm, sitting a lot, laying a lot, elevating a lot. And then I'm on my little wheelie scooter here, my knee scooter or crutches, which I am not very good at using, I got to admit. Kind of a hazard on those things. But yeah, surgery Monday. We're recording this, what is it, Wednesday night? I'm losing track of my days. So just a few days for surgery. And then for 48 hours, they say I legitimately just have to do nothing. So as far as when we record next week, my guess would be maybe next Thursday. So yeah, we might be gone a little longer than usual. But like you said, man, I've heard 4 to 6 months to start kind of doing what they call normal activities, which to me just sounds like, oh, you can drive now. You can kind of walk around, even though you might have a limp. And then I hear more like 9 months to a year of actually feeling like your true self. So it's kind of thing, man. Like I can't look too far ahead. Just have to take it one day at a time. And just weird that I was literally laying in the emergency room and there was someone next to me, and one of the other guys that was visiting this guy, when he heard me talking about it, he was like, "Oh yeah, Griffin Canning just did the same thing tonight, but we got the win." So it was an interesting night, that's for sure. But you know, onward and upward, and I'm glad at least I still have my voice to talk baseball. I still have my eyes to watch baseball. So there's that silver lining.
Well, I know that if you subscribe to the school of Aaron Rodgers Pharmaceuticals, I know that there was discussion upon when he was trying his best to get back early from it that there was CDs or audio recordings of dolphins mating, and I heard that
Hmm.
that helps the Achilles heal. So, Devin, I'm not sure if you want to dive deep into the Spotify archives of dolphins mating, but there you
I
have it.
mean,
So,
I'll give it a shot. I've started taking some collagen peptides. That's not too far out there. The Achilles apparently is very related to kind of collagen kind of stuff. I haven't been taking a multivitamin for a long time. I think it's probably about time I do that. But yeah, I'll do whatever I have to. If it takes dolphins recordings of dolphins, I'll do it.
well, if you guys want to support our show here, you can follow us on IG and on the X Machine, all accounts at Table Setters Pod. Please follow the show, interact with us. By For God's sakes, it's all Devin can do right now is interact on social media. So send him some questions and conversations at Table Setters Pod. Send us. We did get a mailbag question, which was awesome to see. But if you could leave a 5-star review or you use code TS10, check out for Dugout Mugs. I know 4th of July is this weekend, one of my favorite weekends or just my favorite holidays of the year. Looking forward to America's birthday. Good baseball holiday, nice benchmark to discuss who are the pretenders and the contenders. And we have a large discussion coming up here on this episode that will really take assessment of where these teams are at and who is for real and who is for pretend and who's going to be selling at the deadline or who should be selling as well.
Yeah, it's just about time for all those conversations. It is that time of year where every time I open up X, there's a new trade proposal from the different trades every time we're on X, like popping up. And We got to talk about it because a lot of teams hanging around with all the teams that make the playoffs nowadays, a lot of teams hanging around, and you got to sort through who the contenders and pretenders are. And I think some front offices are doing the same thing right now and trying to figure out, do we hang on to our guys? Do we go with what we have? Do we go out and try to buy? Do we sell, even though we're still kind of in it, and take advantage of the market? So a lot of interesting conversations to be had.
The age-old question, and I think we're going to be looking at the Detroit Tigers as an example of what can go right, when can go wrong, and you have the best of both worlds as you move forward into the offseason of next year, where you're a team that has expectations or none going into the season. But we'll certainly touch upon that. But let's hop into our opening say here and discuss what's going on around the world of baseball. All right, Devin, for your opening say, you're talking about the Houston Astros, despite sitting at the top of the AL West and a third best mark in baseball, they're once again navigating a familiar obstacle that they've become very familiar with, the injured list.
Yeah, I just figure I tweeted about this earlier in the week, and I just felt like I'm going to lead off the show with it too and just add to it a little bit. I just feel like the Astros need to be talked about more. What they're doing is incredible, and the question now is, can they keep it up? Because the list keeps on growing. So if we go through this list, we just got an update on Yordan Alvarez yesterday that basically said another setback. He's going to go see a hand specialist. All that doesn't sound good. Like if a report comes out tomorrow that says he's done for the season or he's done until just before the playoffs, I wouldn't be shocked. Maybe that's not the news we get, but that adds to the list. Yordan Alvarez, they've gotten nothing out of him this year. Jeremy Peña goes on the IL. He's playing great. One of those guys, we're going to talk about All-Stars very soon. One of those guys that should have been, maybe still will be, but should have been an All-Star. He goes on the IL with a fractured rib. Chas McCormick on the IL. Brendan Rodgers, Christian Javier, Tommy John, Spencer Arrighetti, Ronel Blanco. Plus, Bregman walks in free agency. Tucker's traded. Christian Walker was their big signing, hasn't exactly worked out. All of this, and to say that we sit here on July 2nd and there are, 7 games up in the AL West, I don't know if it is a bigger story about how good this franchise is, how good they are at next man up, or if it's more of an indictment on the rest of that division. Maybe it's both. But I got to ask you, I know where I stand on this, and it's probably the opposite of where I was last year when I tried to declare them dead way too early. Do you think the Yordan stuff and now the Jeremy Peña stuff, do you think they finally slow down, take a step back, and the rest of the pack starts to catch up to them? Or do you see this as their division all the way through?
I think the fact that the team has moved on from some of the big ticket items like a Kyle Tucker, this team has weathered the storm. We saw last year, you mentioned 12 and 14 to 12 and 24, I should say, to start 2024. And then eventually they emerged with the AL West crown. You mentioned the 7-game lead despite losing multiple stars and really the rotating arms at every turn. I think this team is more well-rounded and they're built to weather the storm, and that has been purposeful. If you look at the numbers with Yordan Alvarez on the IL, and there's been plenty of days for the whole team on the IL. Houston now has spent over 1,000 total days on the IL this season, trailing only the Dodgers and the Mets. So a lot of days for injured players. They have gone 35 and 19 without Yordan Alvarez. And again, he hasn't been there for most of the year. He's out since May 2nd, now dealing with a second rehab stall at this point. It's increasingly murky. I think that the plan for a future of this season, the immediate without him, I think the Jeremy Peña thing's more concerning because he's emerged as really the face of this post Bregman Tucker era in Houston. And you look back, I mean, Peña, it has gained a lot of fame in Houston. People love him. 2022 ALCS and the World Series MVP. He's emerging as this player that I don't know if anyone expected, but a rib thing looms large. I mean, the fact
Yeah.
that he got hit by a pitch on Friday, this thing seems like it doesn't go away quicker. And if it does linger, could be a problem. We heard all reports, and I've been following very closely because he's a big contributor to my fantasy team, that they don't believe this will be long term. But this absence will still sing. They didn't believe he'd do an IL stint, and then we watch him fall on the IL. Peña came out and said, taking it day by day. I don't feel too bad. We'll give it time and see how it plays out. So this is a problem, but Joe Espada is definitely showing a steady hand, and I think that's important too, to have patience and be aware that you have to weather storms, and really it's a war of attrition in baseball. And I love the quote he had. We talked about taking accountability, and we said Davey Martinez did the exact opposite of that weeks ago. But Joe Espada talking about this, he said, "quote Teams are not going to feel sorry for us. We've got good players waiting for an opportunity. We'll find ways to win." And if you're in that dugout, man, you got to just feel good about Doesn't matter who's on the IL, doesn't matter who they traded away or who they didn't sign. This Astros team is built to last. So I have all the utmost confidence that this team will be there at the end of the race. They are just, it's a mirror opposite of what they were last year. So 12-24 to start. Now they built up a cushion. This is a completely different picture, but it's the same old Houston Astros story.
It's unbelievable. It really is. You look at the roster, and there's not a whole lot of it that jumps out at you and scares you as an opposing player, but they just do what they need to do. Guys break out. Jake Myers has been great this year. Suddenly, kind of seems like a whole different player. Obviously, at the front of the rotation, Hunter Brown and Framber Valdez. It doesn't get much better than that. And they just do what they need to do. I mean, one of the best high leverage teams in the league. As a team, they're hitting 286 in those high leverage situations, slugging 475 in those high leverage situations. Both of those numbers are top 5 in the league for that split. Best team ERA on the pitching side in high leverage situations. So they just know what to do when they need to do it. And it's almost like the bigger story is who's going to catch them. Because, I mean, the Angels are 500 now. They've actually passed the Texas Rangers, who we're going to talk about a little later, and what one of their now former players came out and said about them today, which is pretty damning. And obviously the Seattle Mariners, I think every year seem to be the team that at certain moments in the season, they look like they're going to do it. I mean, the first quarter of the season, it looked like, oh, this is the best team in the division this year. Cal Raleigh does amazing things, but the pitching staff is pretty damn good. They just can't seem to put it together to be that far back from the Astros now. I have a hard time. No one has shown me anything consistently enough to make me sit here and believe, like, yeah, the Astros being this beat up eventually are going to get caught. I'll believe it when I see it at this point. They're depleted. They've gotten plenty of bad news, and they just have not let it affect them. They just keep on playing ball. Credit to Joe Espada. Credit to Dana Brown in the front office with what they do every year. I mean, for Bregman and Tucker to walk out that door, to get nothing out of Yordan, it's unbelievable that they are where they are, but I really don't have any reason to doubt that they're going to continue to be there.
Yeah, I think reinforcements will be on the way. You mentioned Spencer Arrighetti. He had the broken thumb. He's thrown multiple bullpen sessions, so he will be back sooner than later. Christian Javier, Luis Garcia, JP France. These are not, name brand pitchers. Maybe Christian Javier gets a little bit of the excitement going for you, but they're recoveries from their major arm surgeries, and they're going to find ways back into this team, and they're only going to get healthier because they really, the injuries can't get worse. Knock on wood if you're a Houston fan, but things as far as Murphy's Law, what could go wrong has gone wrong for the Astros as far as injuries have happened, and eventually the luck has to break the other way. The thing you have to feel good about for them is they're winning, and despite all of this, they're still finding a way to be in the win column. But on my end of things, with the MLB All-Star Game starters being announced today, they did all the pomp and circumstance, whatever, which I was a fan of ESPN. There seems like a little bit of a warming up again with this relationship. Don't want to get into the ESPN stuff. But there was a lot of love being put on this, and deservedly so. I still believe, and again, we are a little bit of a subjective source here talking about the All-Star Game, but this is an event, and it is one of the All-Star games that is taken seriously. It doesn't play for anything anymore. It doesn't determine home field advantage in the World Series anymore, but it still has the feeling of getting to see the stars all in one place. At least I feel that way. Well, Major League Baseball revealed the fan-voted starting lineups for the 2025 All-Star Game on Wednesday night, setting the stage for the Midsummer Classic. Will take place Tuesday, July 15th at Truist Park in Cumberland, Georgia, of course, the home of the Atlanta Braves. So as expected, Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani earned automatic starting spots after leading fan voting in their respective leagues, bypassing the second phase altogether. But beyond them, the starting lineups featured really a blend of talent, some veterans, and also some franchise first. So let's start with the story everybody's been talking about. Jacob Wilson becomes the first rookie shortstop ever to win the fan vote, which is a stunning upset over Bobby Witt Jr. Cal Raleigh, of course, earned his first All-Star nod. That's no shocker here. He became the first Seattle player to start since Nelson Cruz back in 2015. Javier Baez, bounce back season with the Tigers. He gets a starting nod in a third different position in his career, this time the outfield. So that's pretty damn cool for Javi Baez. And the Detroit Tigers led with 3 starters: Baez, Riley Green, Gleyber Torres, who earned his first career All-Star selection at second base. We got Ryan O'Hearn cracking the lineup, first-time All-Star, a designated hitter. So he's having a little bit of a resurgence in Baltimore. So not your daddy's American League lineup. Pretty cool to see Detroit being represented. But there is some conversation I know you wanted to get to about, before we touch on the NL, a little bit of the fan voting skews things in a different direction. Maybe good, maybe bad.
Yeah, and people might call me a Grinch for this, but I feel like I'm kind of done with the fan voting stuff. All the talk in baseball for several years now, and it's continuing to move in this direction, is let's get everything right. Let's do what we need to do to get everything right. Let's get the calls at first base right. We're going to do ABS so we can get the strike calls right, this, and that. How about we get the All-Stars right as well and not just kind of leave it up to which fan bases are more fired up at the moment? Like, good for Tigers fans, but there's some people in here that probably shouldn't be starting. Cubs fans, same things, like certain finalists that should have been surpassed by other people. Snubs is a conversation every single year, and maybe to a degree it's good for the game because it's conversation worthy, and there is a lot of conjecture every year about it. I just would like to see the right guys and not rely on like the bigger fan bases and the more excited fan bases. There's a couple here, and again, some of these guys very well may make and probably will make the All-Star team as reserves, or I mean, let's think about it. These All-Star rosters become bigger than ever now because guys opt out of the All-Star game if they have a little bit of nagging injury or a guy's legitimately injured. The roster ends up being very big. But still, the starters, it's an important thing. I feel like it's a nice thing to have next to your name. Some were more egregious than others. Like, I mean, Jonathan Aranda not even being a finalist, Paul Goldschmidt being a finalist over him. I realize Goldschmidt didn't get the starting gig, but Jonathan Aranda would have been nice if he actually got the finalist conversation there. Brandon Lau as well, another Ray. Jackson Holliday was a finalist there for second base. I would have liked to see Brandon Lau get that nomination there. Byron Buxton, he's probably should be one of the starting outfielders for the American League. He was not a finalist. Javi Baez, I know it's a nice bounce back story for him, but to me, Buxton belongs there. So there, and even you mentioned Jacob Wilson, Bobby Witt, like Jeremy Peña. I know he's hurt, but should have been in that conversation as well. So there's always that. I mean, Teoscar Hernandez in the outfield, he didn't get one of the starting spots. That went to Tucker, Acuna, and Pete Crow Armstrong. But he did not belong in the group of finalists. If he's not a Dodger and a popular Dodger, he doesn't get in there. I mean, James Wood and Corbin Carroll were not finalists in the outfield conversation. Carroll, I understand, is injured, so maybe it doesn't hurt as much. But James Wood, man, this guy, and he'll be in the All-Star game, but he should have been a finalist. And to be honest, I'm not mad about Acuna making it because he's been so unbelievable since he came back. The game's in Atlanta. But you could make the argument that James Wood should be a starter in the outfield for the National League over Ronald Acuna Jr. So there's a bunch of that. I don't love the fan voting stuff because it is a popularity contest in the end.
So before I move to read the American League and the National League lineup, the National League highlights, we want to put some love on Francisco Lindor earning his first starting nod since arriving with the Mets, which is a long-awaited recognition. It's his fifth overall All-Star appearance. Pete Crow Armstrong, formerly in the Mets system, the Cubs, earning his first career All-Star start. He joins Kyle Tucker in the NL outfield. We got a nice Cub duo out there. Ketel Marte of the D-backs becomes the first NL second baseman since Chase Utley from 2006 to 2010 to win back-to-back fan votes. And, of course, the Dodgers, one of the more popular franchises in the league, they lead the NL with 3 selections. Will Smith at catcher, Freddie Freeman at first, and Shohei Ohtani at DH, and Decoy somewhere being voted in as well. But for the American League, let's read through the lineup. I mentioned before, Cal Riley for the Mariners, his first selection. Vlad Jr. of the Blue Jays, his 4th selection overall. Gleyber Torres, as I mentioned, at second for the Tigers, his first selection. Third base, Jose Ramirez is the Guardian. That is, to me, the right choice here, fan vote or not. Jacob Wilson at short with his first vote. Aaron Judge, his 7th start in the outfield. Riley Green, the Tigers, his first. Javi Baez, his 3rd. And for DH, Ryan O'Hearn, this is his first as well. But for the NL, Will Smith, 3rd selection at catcher. Freddie Freeman, his 9th start at first base. What a career for Freddie Freeman. Ketel Marte, his 3rd at second base. Third base, Manny Machado, his 7th. Francisco Lindor, his 5th. Ronald Acuna Jr., his 5th. Pete Crow Armstrong, his 1st. Kyle Tucker, his 4th. And Shohei Ohtani is the 5th time he's an all-star starter. So we got Aaron Boone managing the American League squad. Dave Roberts managing the National League in front of the home crowd, Truist Park. We're going to get some announcements of the pitchers and reserves announced on Sunday, July 6th, with a combination with player votes and league selections to make all these things right. But it's a good conversation, as you mentioned. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. There has to be some way better of getting the right players there and having these teams represented. I think they do a good job after the fact with the player votes and league selections to get players like Jonathan Aranda out there. I believe he will be there. There are some players that are deserving to be voted in, but you're right. We can't have the spammed ballot boxes like we had with the Detroit Tigers. You can't have these, these passionate fan bases showing up and skewing the vote. There's got to be a better way to do it, but I don't know what the answer is. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I do, but I just want to have the right players on the field representing the game of baseball. Because you're right, James Wood deserves to be on that field, and players like him, and that's important for the game of baseball to grow.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned Lindor. It's nice to see him get the start, and I understand he's tailed off a lot, but he's gotten screwed so many other years that it was nice to see him actually win it this time. But the other guy that was a finalist, Mookie Betts, he's another guy who did not belong in that conversation. He's not had an All-Star year. We all know how good Mookie Betts is, but he has not been that good this year. And guys like Trey Turner, Ellie De La Cruz, C.J. Abrams, Geraldo Perdomo, Mason Wynn are all having like all-star conversation years. We're not finalists, and any one of those guys would have been a better choice than Mookie, in my opinion. There, I mean, maybe Lindor wins anyway, but it's still nice to see these guys get their due. And that list just right there, it'll be hard to fit all those guys in the All-Star game, but my guess is we'll see Ellie there, and maybe, I mean, it's tough. Trey Turner, C.J. Abrams, like, who do you take there? Tough to be a manager when you get down to the last couple spots, but yeah, we'll see what corrections they're able to make here.
Yeah, I love the All-Star game, but I think to me the showcase should be the home run derby. And if you get some of those players out there, it's important for them to showcase there. And there is the critique of players and your favorite players getting on the field and doing that because it does mess up their swing, or does it? Question mark. We're not sure. But I think the All-Star game and the home run derby together should showcase the best of baseball. And there are some years it does and some years it doesn't. Sometimes you have players in the home run derby that are not all-stars, and it just, if you're a casual fan, it's confusing to watch because you want to see the best of the best. But then you have a player who is, definitely a serviceable elite player as far as the normal person goes, like the layman is, but it's not the elite player. So I don't know. It's important for us to assess the game in this spot, but I guess the fact that we're talking about this length, I don't think any other league has these conversations on their exclusive podcast. I don't think NHL fans are having this discussion. Maybe there is, I'm not sure, but I just feel like people are passionate, and that means it's a good thing for baseball.
Yeah, I think any conversation out there and articles are going to be written about it, and there's going to be back and forth on Twitter. I don't think it's a bad thing, right? Publicity is a good thing, and maybe basketball has some of this, like limited spots, and there's some snubs and things like that. But baseball every year, this is a big, big conversation, even though the rosters, like we said, are bigger than ever.
So let's head to the meat of the order and talk about the rest of the news around Major League Baseball. All right, so we have the Miami Marlins on the docket. They are on fire, winners of 8 straight. Not sure what they're doing so far tonight. They stand ahead of the Braves in the standings, on the verge of tying their longest streak in franchise history. One more victory would match their record of 9 last achieved back in September of 2008. Look at the era of that team. Cameron Maybin leading off. You also have Scott Olson on the mound. This time we have Otto Lopez, Kyle Stowers, and Edward Cabrera fueling the streak, which for baseball fans, it could be considered a ragtag group of overlooked contributors. But since June 21st, Miami has swept the Giants and the D-backs on the road and taken a series from Atlanta, and their record has climbed to 38-45, placing them within 7 games of NL's final wildcard spot. So the conversation, yeah, we can love the play in the field, but this muddies the water, especially as we approach the trade deadline. This is a team that, by all accounts, this is going to be a discussion among the fan base, because they haven't seen this sustained success at all. It's improbable, but it is the season high right now. So the obvious question follows, is this streak going to change the perspective of this front office ahead of the trade deadline? My say is, Devin, don't count on it. They're moving ahead, trading their players as needed.
Yeah, well, I'm with you, and I'll tell you why in a little bit, but I will say this first. They did end up losing tonight 2-1 to the Twins, a good game. And I think we're the kiss of death, man. Every time we put something in the outline about a team being on a winning streak, they lose that night, either as we're recording or right before we record. But it still has been an impressive run. It's not like they got blown out tonight. If you watch some of this, like, they're playing really good baseball. Some of this is legit. Like, I don't think this is just flash in the pan. I think some of this is really a little bit of a coming out party, maybe a little earlier than anyone saw it. They're tied for 6th in Major League Baseball in team batting average. I did not notice that until I looked it up because of their streak. And that's for the season, by the way. In the last month, they're 4th in team batting average with 268 as their number there. So even better over the last month. Their team ERA, which was pretty much unimpressive before this last little run here, over the last month, it's improved drastically, more around middle of the pack where they were kind of bottom feeding in that category. You got guys, you mentioned Otto Lopez, Edward Cabrera with a gem yesterday, and he really looks like he's kind of finally putting it all together. Cabrera has a 2.10 ERA in his last 5 starts. Lopez hitting 294 with 21 RBIs over the last month. Here's what I'll say to go back to what you said. Don't count on it. I'm with you. Peter Bendix is the guy in charge. Let's remember that when he took over this team, it was after they went to the playoffs, right? And a surprising playoff appearance. And he blew it up immediately. He did not let that affect his decision making. I do not see him being persuaded by the winning streak, or even if there's another one, to be completely honest. I think there's very few untouchables in that Miami locker room as far as Bendix is concerned. He has a vision that I think he has had from the very beginning, and I do not see him wavering with it. The one thing I will say is, like, the conversation is, could they be the gritty Tigers of 2025 and make this improbable run? And we're sitting here saying maybe not, because we think they're still going to sell. Well, let's not have short-term memory here. The Tigers did sell at the deadline last year. Maybe not huge and not a million different deals, but Jack Flaherty was sent to LA and they brought some nice guys back in their package. And it was after that that they really made their incredible run and got to the playoffs and even won a series in the playoffs. So there is always that small chance that the Marlins do sell and do still make the playoffs in an incredible run. I don't see it happening because I think they're going to sell more than the Tigers did last year. But you know what? A lot of crazy things have happened in the Marlins history. So you never know in baseball.
Yeah, right now they have the second worst run differential in the NL, which obviously has to stand out as a red flag that tends to predict there will be future regression that will accurately reflect in the long marathon of a season, that their win-loss record will look at that. And you look at Bendix, he is a product of the Tampa Bay Rays efficiency front office. He knows how to run a group here. And if you look at the current group, their top 12 players by wins above replacement, none are under 25. So you look at the several of them, Dane Myers, Anthony Bender, Lake Badar, they're already nearing 30. And that's not really the demographic of a team on the rise. I mean, right now they're playing well, but if you look at the way this is going to be happening here, he's going to stick to the vision. He's going to identify some of these players as valuable. He's going to flip the short-term contributors and then stock the farm system with controllable youth. You look at players like Stowers or Myers or Enriquez, many of whom were acquired through low-risk moves. They're valuable trade trips all of a sudden. And that's what this win streak does. I mean, they could be moved in the coming weeks for better prospects, more depth for them. In the end, if you're a Marlins fan, hell yeah, enjoy this. This is fun. Winning 8 in a row, and despite it coming to an end tonight, like Devin broke the news here, this is for a franchise. I mean, they've never won 10. This deserves celebration, but let's not lose sight of things. And I think it's important. Peter Bendix and the Marlins, the long game remains really the only game worth playing for him. This Marlins team needs to be built for sustained success, not lightning in a bottle type of stuff. And the Marlins, we've seen it happen, like you said, in short bursts, 03, 1997. This is two World Series championships. But I feel like with the Marlins, there's something, a cultural that needs to be built there. And Peter Bendix is at the core of it right now. And it's about establishing an identity. You don't do that in 1 year.
Yeah, and just to get our wrestling reference in here earlier than usual, he's a visionary. He's a revolutionary. He's Peter frickin' Bendix. All right, so Marlins fans, he's got a vision, man. He's going to stick to it.
Now you have me picturing Peter Bendix in a Seth Rollins-esque suit, which is like, now he needs to show. I mean, what's more Miami than that, than Peter Bendix showing up dressed like Seth Rollins, right?
That's quite a sight to behold.
So let's head over to the American League as well. The AL East, officially the tightest division in baseball. The Toronto Blue Jays making their move. We watched Max Scherzer last night, strong 5-inning outing. His second start since returning from his thumb injury. The Blue Jays rallied from 2-0 deficit to beat the Yankees 5-4. Vlad Jr.'s clutch 2-run single, Toronto's comeback, which is quickly becoming quite the story here. And they're kept rolling, and they were up big tonight, and the game is not over as of right now. The Yankees riding a little bit of the what are you shaking your head over there?
It's 10-9 now, Blue Jays. So this is I wish it wasn't on Prime, but it's an interesting game going back and forth here.
Either way, they sit just one game back at the New York Yankees in the AL East, and they're tied with the Rays in the standings, just a fraction of a percentage point behind them. So the Yankees right now are struggling. They do have a league best plus 105 run differential. And we talked about that before. The Toronto's +4 mark really doesn't look at their momentum, but it's all about wins and losses. 7-3 over their last 10, rejuvenated rotation. The Blue Jays are emerging right now as a dangerous team. And let's not forget the Rays. I know everyone, the sexy conversation is the Blue Jays right now, but the Rays right now very much in the mix. The Red Sox hanging around despite inconsistency. And Baltimore, I mean, they're tumbled out of contention right now. And I think it's a reflection of the depth of the AL East right now. There's a division where it's negative 81 run differential for the Orioles right now. That's not including the game tonight. So I'm sure we'll figure that out in a second. But the AL East is quickly becoming quite the story, and it looked like it was a runaway train for the Yankees, and that's not the case. We're gonna have a dog fight come the summer.
I mean, you nailed it, man. Earlier, like a month ago, month and a half ago, when you're looking at the division races, the AL East looked like the least interesting one. It looked like the Yankees were going to go run and hide. The AL Central looked like it might be interesting. The AL West looked like it might be interesting. And now it is the complete opposite. The West and the Central, the teams up front have started to create these big leads. And other teams are just not putting any sort of winning streaks together. So it doesn't look like it'll be interesting. And the AL East is unbelievable right now. The Yankees have had a lot of trouble against teams in the division, which has created this mess for them. But man, I'm here to tell you the Rays and Blue Jays are both legit. And my question to you after I read off all these numbers is going to be, which team, as a Yankee fan, do you fear more? I have my answer as an outsider, but I'm interested in what you hear, seeing them play against each other so much too. But so let's start with the Rays. Team batting average 258 is second to the Dodgers for the season. Most stolen bases for the season as a team, seventh in runs scored, eighth in slugging, fifth in base running, if you look at the analytic measure on Fangraphs, seventh in team ERA. And you got to remember, you have McClanahan maybe coming back at some point to help. Joe Boyle killing it in AAA, that anytime you need him might be able to come up. Ian Seymour as well down in AAA. Second in walks per 9 on the pitching side, so not putting guys on free passes. Best left on base percentage, can get out of trouble. 3.75 bullpen ERA, which is decent, somewhere in the middle of the pack, but not an obvious weak link. Not an obvious weak link on that team. Offensively, they can run, right? They can hit for power, they can hit for average, they can do everything, and they can pitch pretty damn well too. And then on the Blue Jays side, maybe not as convincing, but they have a lot of good things, and they seem to be getting better. So who knows if these numbers improve. Hitting 257 as a team, just 1 point below the Rays, tied for third in the league. Fourth in on-base percentage, the lowest strikeout percentage offensively. So they're not just striking out a ton. If you look at the defense analytic on Fangraphs, they are the best defensive team in the league by a lot, which is something that playoff teams do. Most, not all. We saw the Yankees last year, but fifth best K per 9, the 10th best bullpen ERA, which for them is a big deal. Last year, their bullpen was disgusting. To me, I still think Toronto is a little more vulnerable than Tampa, just based on the whole picture. But the other side of it is I'm also more convinced that Toronto will be aggressive or try to be aggressive at the deadline to add to what they have. Whereas Tampa, even as well as they're doing, there's still rumors about them selling a couple guys off and pivoting in a different direction. And maybe they don't do that, but I still have a hard time seeing them buy and give up assets. So in that regard, you got to like Toronto a little better. So it's hard to pick one. As a Yankee fan, who are you more fearful of?
It's got to be Tampa. I just think Tampa plays the Yanks so tight. I like the defensive stats you gave about Toronto because that does loom large and in tight games. And we're watching the slugfest between the Yanks and the Blue Jays going back and forth right now, that some games just get out of control like that. And despite getting up to a 7-0 lead, these things happen. And if the Blue Jays want to pulling this win away despite blowing the lead, that sometimes does more for a team to almost blow the lead and then hold on to it.
Right.
But I love what Tampa's done this year. I think playing at home outside is a different feel for this team. There seems to be an energy. You just watch anything on social media with this team. They seem like a galvanized group. And similar to our Campbell friends, the fighting camels, the nobody's from nowhere type of energy from the Tampa Bay Rays. And they feel like they're bonded by that. 48 and 39, won again tonight against the Athletics, a tight game. This is a team that's going to be dangerous come October. And the Yankees, whether the Yankees can outlast and win the AL East, one of these teams is going to be an issue come October for them. And I think Tampa matches up really well against the Bronx Bombers.
Either way, it's fun. I'm with you. I think if you put a gun to my head, I would go with the Rays as well. But overall, it's fun, and I love to see the Blue Jays in the mix here and bouncing back this year. And George Springer having a complete rebirth at 35 years old. I mean, everyone looked at that contract and thought to themselves, that's going to look rough towards the end of it. And it's been the opposite. This might be his best year as a Blue Jay, and he's been right in the thick of things, it seems like, every single game.
And what a year for bad contracts. Javi Baez, all of a sudden waking up. George Springer, same thing. I watched, obviously the Yankee game last night, and Springer slid into third. It looked like he was going to be out forever. And that seems like the Springer story. He kind of, he was shaken up a little bit and bounced right back up. And it's like, okay, maybe this is not the same old George Springer that was getting hurt all the time. So you're right. I mean, it's nice to see Toronto back in the mix. Of course, being a Yankee fan, I want the Yankees to do well, but Toronto being good, especially around Canada Day, and it's a day away from Bret Hart's birthday. So Toronto doing well is good for baseball. So it's nice to see them out there, and we know they want to spend. I mean, they flew that plane all the way up to Shohei Ohtani to back the armored truck into the driveway of Shohei Ohtani. They were unable to get him, but they're willing to spend money. Them and the Giants, dude. The Giants got their guy this year in the trade. Toronto has to be dead. They want someone big if they're available.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to keep tabs on them being this close to the division lead, like what they decide to go and try to do, and if they have the pieces to give up to get a big fish.
So we move over to the trade deadline. We got pitching. That's really the mantra for the Chicago Cubs as the trade deadline approaches. It's really not up for debate. No matter how the current staff shapes up over the next few weeks, the front office has to add to this rotation if they want to be taken seriously as a World Series contender. And we all believe the Chicago Cubs could be that way. And one intriguing name for them is Mitch Keller of the Pittsburgh Pirates. And according to the CBS Sports, the Cubs were identified as one of the top 3 potential landing spots for the right-hander alongside the Twins and the Padres. So we look at his profile, Devin, definitely a former All-Star, deep pitch mix, high durability. He's on pace to make 30-plus starts for the 5th straight year, which you love to see. His strikeout number, 77, and about 100 innings are down from his 2023 peak, which is 210 Ks and 194.1 innings pitched. He's been quietly effective 2025. You look at the stats, dive deep into the box score for him. 3.90 ERA and even sharper 3.33 FIP. So CBS Sports in the article was very interesting, and they were really diving deep into this, and pick it up here and definitely read it. Keller may be more expendable than other Pirates arms like Jarrett Jones or Bubba Chandler because the Pirates are floundering again, obviously, in the NL Central, 35-50 record. And despite being division rivals, a deal between Chicago and Pittsburgh isn't impossible. They made it clear here because the Cubs' deep farm system in Pittsburgh's glaring need for controllable talent makes them match partners here. And Keller, CBS, and you can look at this, maybe he's not the perfect fit. And the Cubs' preference, they like swing and miss guys, and Keller does not do this, but the reliability, experience, and the fact that he's affordable make him a stopgap for an upgrade here. And he's not the kind of ace that's going to shift your whole postseason outlook for the team, but I think he might be just good enough to stabilize that a lot of teams are coveting come the trade deadline. If Mitch Keller can continue to do what he's doing, he's reliable. He's going to take the hill every 5 days. And of course, Jed Hoyer is going to be exploring multiple pitching options. This is not all Mitch Keller or bust here. And they're going to be looking offensive upgrades as well. I think this is logical, attainable, and you're not going to have to give up too much. And if the Cubs are going to be aggressive, they may just do this among other shopping items too, to go pick it up and put it in their cart.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said. Just as an aside here, for anyone watching on YouTube, I apologize for all the shifting around I'm doing during this recording. And Steve, I apologize to you having to watch it as well. It's, again, the Achilles shit. I'm trying to figure it out. I might have to adjust my recording space a little bit where I put things, and because this is rough. Having the foot down in an upright, like a seated position for too long doesn't feel great. So as of right now, I just elevated it up onto my little knee scooter. We'll see how long this lasts. Turning the head is not comfortable. So anyway, that's why, if you're wondering what the hell is Devin doing, well, if you watch, it might not be bothering the people on audio, but people watching it might be a little bit. Anyway, to just touch upon the Keller stuff. I mean, we said months ago, I feel like Keller is the guy for the Pirates to move. When you look at the pitching that the Pirates have in the future, build around Skeens and eventually Bubba Chandler and Jared Jones, if he can come back healthy, Keller can get you a lot in return in a market that is, and we might be saying this year after year now, with the amount of teams that make the playoffs, I think it's going to be a seller's market almost every single year where you can take advantage of it if you're willing to move somebody, because there's going to be multiple bidders if there's not that many guys to go out and get. I mean, I think about our fantasy league. It is very tight, 10-team league, 6 teams make the playoffs, right? And there's maybe 2 teams that are completely out of the playoff picture right now. Neither of them are willing to trade. And then there's 2 other teams that are on the fringe, including myself. And if we fall out of it, like, we might be the only shows in town as far as teams that other managers are going to come ask about for trades to try to strengthen their team before the deadline. Similar things happen in Major League Baseball. Like, if a team is sitting 5 games out of the playoff picture right now, and by the eye test, they don't look very good, but their general manager is like, we're only 5 games out. I don't really want to give anybody away. All right, you can't go to them. So if there's only 2 or 3 teams, let's say the Diamondbacks don't want to send anybody away, because I hear a lot of names from the Diamondbacks being brought up in trade discussions. Those are a lot of big players off the table for everybody else to look at. So people are going to go to a team like the Pirates, like the Marlins, and see who they can get. And if the Pirates are willing to let a guy like Keller go, who is super dependable, like you pointed to, and you listed lots of stats to support it, I don't love them giving him to a division foe. But like you said, if they can get the right amount in return, I guess who cares? And we know the Cubs have a good system. The Cubs have kind of been middle of the pack as far as pitching goes. The offense has been very good. Pitching, 3.86 team ERA, 14th in Major League Baseball. If they want to try to keep up with the Dodgers, listen, I know the Dodgers pitching hasn't been anything to write home about, but they're going to get a lot of guys back. And I would not doubt that they're also going to look at the trades to try to strengthen their rotation once again. They do it every year. Somehow they always have the pieces to be able to do it year after year after year. Organizational excellence, as many people have pointed to. So I think if you're the Cubs sitting there like, hey, we have a legit World Series chance. I know they said if the price is right and they're going to wait it out, they're not going to rush. But man, like, if it's reasonable enough, give the Pirates what they want. Mitch Keller is a nice addition to that rotation. I for whatever reason, I just don't see it happening. I think somebody else comes and gets Mitch Keller out of the division, because if all things pretty equal, why wouldn't they send him out of the division if they had the chance?
Well, he went 7 strong against the St. Louis Cardinals, 5-0 win, 7 innings pitched, 7 Ks, only walked 1, no runs given up. So really quality Mitch Keller getting into form at the right time here. Listen, I mean, I think he's going to be valuable, but if you are the Pirates and you're a respectable franchise, you don't trade him within the division. Is Mitch Keller going to haunt you for years and years? Of course not. But if you're a diehard Pirates fan, why are you going to want the Cubs to pursue a championship at your expense? Like, there's got to be some pride if you're a Pirates front office to say, no, we're not doing that. But unless it makes sense to be trading from a point of depth and is the best absolute offer, trading within the division makes sense. But I feel like they have to bump any other offer by a little bit extra because it's within. But that's just me, dude. If I'm dealing from that, I'm a little bit more skeptical trading within the division just out of pride.
I'm the same. And we'll see. We'll see the Pirates, who knows what they're thinking. I could see them falling asleep at the wheel, to be completely honest. But I mean, they've been playing a little better as of late. David Bednar is going to be another guy that's going to be popular. He's been great since he went down and came back up. Seems to have fixed things and found his old self. So, I mean, I know a team like my Metsies could use some bullpen help. I wouldn't be surprised to see him being someone they're interested in, and several other teams. So the trade deadline, we still got a lot of time here, and it's going to get super, super interesting really quick.
So staying on the bump here and things that are very interesting, after being tagged by his former team at Yankee Stadium, Luis Severino did not hold back. He shifted the focus from his performance to the larger frustration for most of these Athletics players, pitching at Sutter Health Park, which of course is the minor league stadium serving as the temporary home before the Athletics' temporary relief of getting to Vegas. He said, quote, "It feels like a spring training game. It's really tough." He talked about the atmosphere. He also talked to elaborate this week. He didn't walk anything back. And this was very interesting. He said, "If you ask me how I feel pitching at home, I'm not going to lie to you. My job is to try to pitch. And every time you ask me a question, be honest with you guys. So that's what I did." He also added that several of his teammates feel the same way, which is a sentiment that reportedly hasn't gone over well with the front office. So according to USA Today, the Athletics, quote, can't wait to be rid of Severino, who signed his 3-year, $67 million deal this past offseason. And don't correct me if I'm wrong, this is the most lucrative free agent deal in Athletics history. Is that correct, Evan, right?
That is correct. That was the report. Yeah, listen, if I'm Sevy, I love Sevy. Had a great year for the Mets last year, so
We're big
he'll
Sevy
always
guys over here.
big
Big
Sevy
Sevy.
guys, former Yankee, former Met. I just think he should be careful what he wishes for. The last guy to be this outspoken about wanting to leave somewhere got shipped off to the Chicago White Sox, Aaron Savali, requesting a trade. Now, Sevy has not gone that far to request a trade, but, he's talked a lot of crap. Here's the thing, man. The splits are pretty staggering. ERA away from Sutter Health Park, 3.04 in 47 innings pitched on the road. That's great. Anybody would like to add that guy. At home, I mean, he's not kidding when he says he hates pitching there. 6.79 ERA in Sacramento. That's like two completely different pitchers. 3.04, 6.79. I mean, it's not even close. It's like two different dudes. So I don't know. I mean, when I actually look at it and think to myself, will he actually be traded? I mean, maybe he's owed $25 million next year. And then interestingly enough, he has a player option for the year after that in 2027 for $22 million. I don't see the A's getting much in return for him unless they're willing to eat a significant amount of that money. Because when a guy openly says how much he hates it there and the home ERA is that bad, like what leverage do the A's actually have? Unless they're willing just to send him off for not much. Like, hey, you don't have to give us that much as long as you don't make us eat a ton of money. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think there'll be that many suitors. It's not like Luis Severino is in like a Cy Young race here. But 3.04 on the road, like there's got to be GMs out there that are like, oh, this guy will be great for us if we can just get him out of Sacramento. But I don't know, that the money makes me second guess a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. Looking at just the allure of the optimism from the road performance has you believe that one of the contenders will take a stab at it if the price is right. But if you're the Athletics, I mean, right now it's another lost season. They're in transition. There's no reason to hold on to him if he's disgruntled. He does hold value, but you mentioned the money's there, and your leverage sort of disappears if he says he wants out. But
Right.
I'd say betting money would be that he's going to be pitching in a uniform by August. I just feel like he will be because the Athletics want him gone. There's already bad press what's going on with Sutter Health Park. I think you probably want to get him out. But if this is an infectious sort of narrative across a lot of these players, this may be more deep driven than just a Luis Severino issue. This is more of a you're going to be there for a little bit issue. This is not just a transition lily pad to get to Vegas. You're going to be there for a few years, and that's more of the problem.
Yeah, it's a problem, like you said, it's not going away until they get to Vegas, and then who knows? John Fisher-led team, there'll probably be new problems at that point. So, I mean, free Sevy, I guess. I know a lot of Met fans are like, bring him home. I have a hard time seeing David Stearns making that move unless, again, they can get the A's to eat a good amount of money. Obviously, the Mets could use some pitching help with all the injuries that they've gone through lately. So I'm not going to completely shut that possibility out, but it just doesn't seem like a Stearns kind of move to bring a guy back for more money after he let him walk. So we'll see. To be continued.
Yeah, I know that there was some conjecture on social media about John Fisher being on a flight to Portland. So I know they broke ground in Vegas, but there was conversation about why is he heading out to Portland? So maybe not all sunshine and rainbows out in Sin City. Maybe they were thinking about, we know that they want to bring a franchise over to Portland. Rob Manfred said it out loud, but maybe he's just kicking the tires a little bit. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Oh God. I mean, they just had the groundbreaking ceremony in Vegas, and it came out that like the construction equipment in the background, they actually rented it just as like stuff in the background. It wasn't actually being used, and then they had to give it back. So like, I don't know. You know how I feel about John Fisher and that whole situation. Anything I see with that, I just don't buy into. I feel like it's all fake for the camera to make people feel like everything's going well, and it's more than likely not, because that seems to be how John Fisher led things go. There's always seems to be a problem. So I don't know. I'd want him. If I'm Portland, I'd want him to take the first flight out of here.
I was about to say the same thing. I think if Portland's a great market, by the way. I think if we can start the rivalry between Seattle and Portland, similar to what they have in the MLS, it's really good in the Pacific Northwest. Passionate fan base. Get a brand new team that doesn't have the stink of John Fisher on it. Get far away from him. I think it's inevitable. We're gonna get a team in Raleigh, North Carolina. We're gonna get a team in Portland, Oregon, and that's going to happen within the next 5 years. I think that is not even a bold prediction. Those markets are untapped and they're going to be amazing. But if you're a city welcoming in a new franchise of any sort, you don't want John Fisher far, far away.
Yeah, I don't know why this is popping into my head, but for any of you that watch John Oliver's show on HBO, a few months ago, he did a segment where he said, like, a minor league team, contact us if you are willing to let us completely rebrand you, and we'll work with you. So anyway, the Lake Erie team, and I don't know what level they are. I apologize. This is just popping in my head now. Agreed to it, and they revealed the new team name, and they're the Lake Erie Moon Mammoths. And there's a big story behind that, but I'm in the market for a Moon Mammoths hat. If anybody can lead me, I like the flex fit. Okay. Usually for that type of hat, I like the flex fit. So if anyone can point me in the right direction for a Moon Mammoths hat, that's my my next purchase.
So they're a AA team. I looked it up for you over there. That's some good housekeeping. So, and there's a story here as well. There's like a scuba diver named George Moon combing the depths of the Pleasant and Erie County, Pennsylvania. So really like historically driven here. This is not just like, oh, I'm going to name the team. Apparently when he broke the surface, he was carrying with him an almost 3-foot long bone. Moon had no idea what he'd stumble across was the shoulder blade of a creature that he walked the land of Erie something 12 millennia ago. He had no idea that the prehistoric discovery would one day somehow become a part of baseball history. So this was actually part of the story. So this was on Last Week Tonight, as Devin mentioned, with John Oliver. Pretty damn cool. And the hat is really, really sick. Actually, this is something my brother would make his logo in fantasy baseball. 100%. It is a mammoth with a space hat on, and
Yeah,
the actual primary logo is the moon mammoth, the mammoth on top of the moon, purple, blue, great color. So you guys should check that out. So there's a AA affiliate of the Tigers. So Tigers doing all things right
Tigers.
across all these platforms. Hell yeah. Go Moon Mammoths.
Yeah, Moon Mammoths. Get me one of those hats.
So going back to the sellers here, and trade deadline is going to be a big topic conversation. The Minnesota Twins look like a bubble team, which is not good enough to go all in, but not bad enough to punt the season away. Fresh off some too much needed wins, they've temporarily silenced the growing calls to sell off. And even baseball operations president Derek Falvey pushed back on the deal earlier this week, signaling the team still views itself as a contender in the AL wildcard race. But if you look at the Twins, Devin, hesitating between selling and then staying pat, the clear answer should be they need to sell. I mean, Minnesota sits in the soft middle of the American League, and you look at their path to a meaningful October. I mean, it's still murky at best, even best case scenario. Even if they sneak into the postseason, they feel like they're a quick out. I mean, they got thin rotation depth. This is a bullpen that's been overtaxed on a lineup really that, I mean, lacks impact power. I mean, Carlos Correa, Royce Lewis when healthy. You mentioned Byron Buxton. These are players that you can probably feel excited about long term. Big picture. We talked about this with the Marlins. Maybe it's not as egregious with the Twins, but this team needs to get younger, more athletic, more cost effective. And this trade deadline is an opportunity to do that. So if they pivot towards selling, there's multiple contenders. I feel before I move into it, I'll let you have your say, but I have some 3 smart trade partners for the Twins that makes a lot of sense.
You want to reveal them, or you want me to say my piece first?
Say your piece first, and I'll get into my trade partners.
All right, so I'm with you. I mean, I think they definitely need to do at least some selling. 13 games back in the division, about 4 back in the wild card, which is not too far, but lots of teams to jump, and sometimes that's the bigger deal. I mean, some of the targets that I don't think these are necessarily the crown jewels, but some solid targets for other teams. Johan Duran, back end of the bullpen, could certainly be a nice addition for any team looking for bullpen help. Chris Paddock in the rotation, pretty reliable starter. Put him in the middle of that rotation. Harrison Bader always seems to be a guy on a 1-year deal that someone wants to add on, being a defensive help there. He's going to play elite defense in the outfield. Even like a Willie Castro adds speed to your team. He's had a pretty good season this year as well, so the value might be high. But the crown jewels to me are 2 guys, Joe Ryan and Byron Buxton. I don't know if either of them are truly available. They both have multiple years. I mean, Joe Ryan has a couple years of arbitration left still. Buxton is the really interesting one to me, and I know I've seen a lot of tweets from Twins fans saying Byron Buxton is going nowhere. All you fans of big market teams, like, forget about it, move on to somebody else. He has a full no trade clause, and he was the one who asked for that. I pump the brakes a little bit here. There's been other guys that have had full no trade clauses that have agreed to go other places. Buxton is having the best year of his career, and obviously, fingers crossed that he stays healthy. To me, it is the perfect moment for the Twins to sell high on a guy that may never be this high in value again, because he might not ever be able to be this healthy again. We know his health track record. This might be the perfect opportunity. Now, I think it works on the Twins side for that reason. Sell him at an all-time high value that you're never going to probably get again. And he has 3 more years on his contract of $15 million a year, which for a team trying to acquire him, if you believe you can keep him healthy for 3 more years, $15 million a year for what he can produce is a steal. So to me, it makes sense on both sides, whether it's the Twins getting rid of him or a contender acquiring him. I love the thought of someone acquiring Byron Buxton and having him help you take the next step. Joe Ryan, as I mentioned, 2 more years of arbitration left. I would think the Twins see him as part of the solution going forward. Although, if they're overwhelmed, we talked about the seller's market, and Mitch Keller, one of the only reliable starters that might be out there, other than some of the Marlins guys, as options for teams to try to trade for. I mean, if someone overwhelms you for Joe Ryan, and you can get multiple pieces that are not that far off from the majors, who knows? Maybe. He's a bit older than I think some people realize. I would guess that some people would guess he's in his mid-20s. He'll go into his age 30 season next year. Not old, but like maybe a little older than most people would guess. To me, the Twins should commit to the youth movement. Brooks Lee playing really well. Luke Keeschel is on the road back. He'll probably be back in a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks at the most. He was playing great before he went on the IL with the wrist injury. Walker Jenkins, Emmanuel Rodriguez, super high prospects that are probably just around the bend, whether it's later this year or maybe early next year. So commit to the rebuild. If there's some of these pieces they can sell off and they can get some value back. I mean, don't just do it for the hell of it. But if you like the value that you're being offered, I don't think this is your year, Twins. So and you've tried this formula for a while now. I think it's time to try something else.
So I agree with what you said as well. And the 3 smart trade partners I had were the teams. We mentioned the Cubs before, looking for starting rotation help. They're going to be looking for bullpen help and maybe utility infield depth for a playoff team that can always help out. The Dodgers looking for bullpen arms, rotation depth. I mean, and the Phillies looking for some outfield depth and bullpen help. So as the doctor prescribing medication, starting rotation, Chris Paddock matches with me with the Cubs, and Willie Castro for the utility depth as well. So maybe a big ask, but maybe Owen Casey from the Twins. You can go to the Twins, I should say, from the Cubs. Could slot in by 2026. They're going to need a power bat with them, and it's not always clean to do a deal like that. But if the Cubs are desperate enough, if things fall through, Chris Paddock could be the answer. And Willie Castro, if you look at World Series teams and go through them, and we're not going to spend the time right now, you probably spend a whole episode doing it. Find the depth infield players that have contributed to World Series team. And you can't really find a World Series team that doesn't have a utility player that contributed. I think Willie Castro does fit that role. As far as the Dodgers go, if they're looking for a bullpen arm, Joan Duran or Duran, however you say his last name. I think if you look at any of the number of pitching prospects from the Dodgers pipeline, maybe River Ryan, Nick Frazo, Kyle Hurt, that would be, I mean, Duran has to command a serious haul, because if the Twins are going to commit to a mini rebuild, this is where the value lies. You mentioned some of the other names, but I think the Dodgers love control. He is someone that still has control. They will pay for it. And the Dodgers right now, they're always in a win now mode. And if Duran can help them win right now, they're going to pay for it. And for the Phillies, Harrison Bader matches up really well with them. I think I like that a lot. Maybe some young MLB ready arms, Griff McGarry or Justin Crawford as an outfielder. He probably costs more for the Phillies to get him off there. But the Phillies have shown that they'll be aggressive. And I think if they're going to jump in the market early and they're going to try to make sure that they're going to go away and try their best to be back in the World Series, I think the Twins can benefit by offering some controllable, versatile players who fill some specific needs. But I think these teams, like the Cubs, the Dodgers, and the Phillies, you're looking for the finishing touches on what is going to be a push towards October. And I think the Twins, that it's not going to be, oh, damn, we're going to definitely put the finishing touches on a World Series roster. You kind of have to be there ready to match up with the Twins.
Yeah, the Phillies are such an interesting team going towards the trade deadline because we've mentioned a lot of times we feel like this might be the last stand for them with this specific group of players, the Schwarbers, the Real Mutos, the Nick Castellanos. I don't think all those guys are gonna be back. I know maybe one of them will be. Maybe I could see them re-signing Schwarber, maybe even Realmuto, but I mean Castellanos is probably gone. I think they'll look a little different. So if that's in your head, do you mortgage some of the future? Because they have some nice young pieces in the minors to kind of help this one last stand with this group? Or do you hold serve, add some tiny little pieces around the edges like a Harrison Bader and not give up too much? That way, these other guys that are almost ready, whether it be an Aiden Miller or Justin Crawford, are still there to help you going forward into the next generation of whatever Phillies baseball looks like. Dave Dombrowski is a swing big guy, though. I know. I mean, he's been rather reserved with the Phillies, to be honest. I mean, obviously the Luzardo trade was great, but he in his past he's been a swing big, aggressive dude as far as trades and free agency go. So I'm very intrigued to see what the Phillies do because even with this recent Mets free fall, the Phillies haven't exactly run away with things here. Like they've had the chance with how bad the Mets are playing, and they haven't run away with it. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I could see them matching up. All those teams you mentioned are obvious trade fits with the Twins if the Twins are willing to do what you and I think is right.
And the borderline thing is that I think with the extra playoff spot, teams get this sense of false reality that they could be a contender. But if you look at the Twins and they look at themselves with a good hard look, they put the lights on bright in the bathroom and stare at yourself in the mirror like you had too many drinks at a party. They're not a championship team. So if you have a chance to make yourself better for the long term, why would you hold on to the fleeting wildcard chance when you can build something sustainable and be a model franchise? So I think they need to retool, and that might be hard pill to swallow when you are playing good baseball in different spurts. But they need to accept their fate. Just accept it, and you'll be better for it. Live to fight another day.
Yeah, and honestly, they might want to be the first team to pull that trigger compared to the Guardians and the Royals, and they might be better off for it in the future.
What's the future bet that Willie Castro gets a hit in the World Series this year?
Like randomly a hero for like the Dodgers or something. Oh
Yeah.
God. I mean, you mentioned Duran possibly going to the Dodgers. Imagine that if they can get healthy and Blake Trinan and Michael Kopech and Durant and oh my God, just
Can't you see
they
him
can
in a
shorten the game. Oh my God. No,
can't you just
I
see
don't
it
want to.
happening? I
Yes, I
mean,
could absolutely see
they
that.
would have to put together a package. Like I think it showcases around a River Ryan. Like you have to be like, you know what? All
I'm
right, we'll
sure
make
they
that deal happen. And I think they'll do
yeah.
it. That's the thing. They draft well, they scout well. They could find another player out there to fill that pipeline up. That's how it goes.
Yeah, I could see it. They're gonna add someone significant, whether it's Durant or somebody else.
So we have some sad news in the baseball world. We lost one of the most formidable, charismatic, and beloved figures this past weekend as Dave Parker, a two-time World Series champion, seven-time All-Star, and newly elected Hall of Famer, died at the age of 74 after his long battle with Parkinson's disease, affectionately known as the Cobra. He was a singular force in his prime. This dude was 6'5", rocket arm, a big bat, and a confidence that made him the heartbeat of every clubhouse he entered. So 19 seasons with the Pirates and the Cincinnati Reds, 339 home runs, 2 batting titles, 3 gold gloves, which is a rare badge of two-way excellence of corner outfielder. You don't really see that nowadays. He was elected into the Hall of Fame by the Classic Baseball Era Committee in December 2024. And the main thing people remember is that April 9th, 1979 cover on Sports Illustrated featuring Parker and Jim Rice of the Boston Red Sox. So the photo, if you guys are not, I mean, Google it right now, but it has Parker in his Pirates uniform, of course, classic gold, the pillbox cap, and flashing the signature number one finger, and Rice standing beside him in the home whites. And really, it was just next to them, the most feared hitters at the time. And the headline was "Who's Best?" So, and decades later, Jim Rice has come out and also said Dave Parker was better. He just was, had more tools. He was stronger, bigger, faster. You didn't give him any crap. You stood back and admired the guy. So we could talk about Dave Parker, the 1979 World Series title, the central figure of really just one of the more culturally influential teams, the We Are Family Pirates. Like, I don't think a lot of people really talk a lot about that. And on top of it, go on and win another ring in 1989 with the Oakland A's. This is a real-time Hall of Fame player. You will be missed. And all our thoughts to his family.
Yeah, he had stops with the Brewers and Angels as well. Kind of, for a player that was that elite, definitely had several different stops and not used to it in that era of baseball. You didn't see as much of that of guys jumping around, but a guy that maybe you look back and should have been like a lifelong Pirate, but had a little bit of a falling out with the fans there after he got paid. Um, had a lot of issues with his knees, and he was an elite athlete, like you mentioned, who could do a little bit of everything. And then I think when his knees turned on him, some fans probably wrongly thought he was dogging it a little bit, but pain is pain, and that can make you look like you're not trying your hardest sometimes. Just a fantastic player when you go back and watch the highlights. You feel like he's one of those rare guys. You could take him from then and plug him into today's game, and he'd fit right in and be just as comfortable. He had kind of made up with the Pirates and Pittsburgh and the organization and the fans in the last 10 years or so, which was nice to see. There was actually that famous trial, and this was another thing that kind of threw his career for a loop, where it was brought into spotlight of Major League Baseball having a problem with cocaine, and no players were brought into the courtroom, but certain guys, their names were dragged into it. He did admit to some cocaine use at a certain point, was pretty honest about it over the years, and was able to clean himself up afterward. But one of the parts of his story, for sure. And the other thing that I love about his story is in a few of his stops in his later years, he ended up being a huge role model kind of guy of taking guys under his wing and making them better and kind of come into their own. Barry Larkin with the Reds talks super highly of Dave Parker and his time he spent with him, and a very, very young Gary Sheffield as well. Another note about Dave Parker is Muhammad Ali was his idol, and then he actually got to meet him. And then years later, Parker, just like Ali, was diagnosed with Parkinson's, unfortunately. I'm just happy to know, and I'm sure baseball fans are, that he was at least alive for the notification that he's going into the Hall of Fame. Of course, it is a shame that we will not get to hear him speak on that day, just a few weeks around the corner. That stinks, as a baseball fan. But the fact that, unlike a Pete Rose, maybe in a few years from now, at least he died knowing he was going into the Hall of Fame.
And to tie it with the All-Star game that's around the corner here, if you go back to some highlights, one of the more famous one, 1979, that laser throw, prophetic and poetic that he threw out Jim Rice at third. These guys are interchangeably connected together. They were doing celebrity golfing together despite not playing on the same team, usually on the opposite sides of the field. They were interchangeably tied together. So it was sad. And I mean, but it makes you go back and look at this Hall of Fame careers. I mean, you look at players like Tony Gwynn, Barry Bonds, Dave Parker, the athleticism it just jumps off the screen no matter what era that you're watching him play. So go back and watch some Dave Parker highlights. As Devin mentioned, this July he'll take his place in Cooperstown, but sadly without the man himself. But I mean, the image of the Cobra himself, bat in hand, finger in the air, and his gold uniform blazing, it's immortal, and his legacy will live forever in Cooperstown. So all the best to Dave Parker and his family. Moving on here, we have Kevin Pillar officially announced his retirement from Major League Baseball this week, closing the book on his hard-nosed 11-year career, which spans 7 teams. As he steps away from the game, he did offer some surprisingly candid reflection on what it felt like to be an outsider during his final big league stop with the Texas Rangers and how the clubhouse dynamic left him disappointed. So I'll let you take the lead from here about this. Kevin Pillar, very transparent, especially, I mean, just removed after retiring. You don't usually hear this amount of transparency from a player.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Very transparent, very quickly, which to me makes me feel like there is some frustration boiling over there. And it'll come through when we read this quote. And it's just interesting because after last season, he said he was going to retire. And then he had a change of heart. And part of it was because he had a chance to play with the Texas Rangers, just, a little more than a year removed from a World Series, and thought it would be a good opportunity to play with that core of guys. And this is what he had to say today. Quote, "I thought they would be a little bit tighter as a group. I thought it'd be like my experience in Atlanta. Everyone wanted to pull on the same rope. Everyone wanted to hang out and do everything together. Winning was the most important thing every day. When I got in the clubhouse in Texas, there's a lot of talent in there, and there's a lot of individual stuff going on. A lot of guys are doing their own thing. You might not see people until the game. Guys are just kind of doing their own thing. Not a lot of BP, not a lot of stretching together. Maybe for me, I just being the outcast, it's a lot of the same guys that won the World Series. So maybe I was just kind of on the outside. I was looking for more of a way to get in that inner circle, and that comes through stretching and BP, where you talk about things that aren't baseball and you get to know guys." To me, when I read this, I think it's pretty damning on what's going on in the Texas Rangers organization and clubhouse, because we've been scratching our head for a year and a half now, ever since they won that World Series, and looking at the roster and being like, this is pretty much the same group of guys, and they've added around they've added guys as well, and it's just not coming together. They're one of the best pitching staffs in the league this year as far as ERA, and the offense just cannot do anything to hold their own weight. Well, sometimes it is outside the numbers and chemistry. I know some people don't believe in chemistry, especially in baseball, where it's a lot of individuals within a team game. But there's something to be said, man. I don't know if it's something of like these guys are satisfied with the one World Series, or they're just resting on their laurels. It surprises me for a Bruce Bochy led team. That is what's surprising to me. And it's just one dude. So maybe something about Pilar rubbed these guys the wrong way, or maybe he's overreacting. But Pilar always seemed like one of those glue guys. I mean, he played for the Mets. I remember him as a Met fan getting hit in the face with the ball, blood just pouring. And then I fail to remember how long he was out, but when he came back, he had the mask. He still looked all kinds of messed up, and he was out there playing, a gritty dude. So I do feel like him saying this and saying it so quickly holds a little bit of weight. And if you're a Texas fan, you got to be thinking like, I don't like that. I don't like that for the future of this team.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, whether his remarks are received as like a warning or just this is just a one case thing, it serves as a reminder that chemistry can't be created, and sometimes doesn't always follow winning. And I think team culture still matters. And I think if we watch Kevin Pillar, players like him, they're glue guys. They're guys that make you feel a certain type of way, and they keep teams together. Texas is loaded with talent, but I think it underscores really a contrast where, I mean, you look at the 2023 Braves, as we mentioned before, cohesive, unified in all ways. And despite winning, sometimes that can't be done. So uh, definitely something to discuss, and it does play a part as far as what's going on in the field. But let's move ahead to our sub 2 ERA crew. Let Devin lead the way here.
I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted because I just got a notification of a giant trade in our fantasy league, but I'll try to pay attention to what we're doing right now. Let's get the sub 2 first. Sub 2 ERA crew. This is a quick segment anyway because the crew is smaller than ever this year. It's a one-man band. Hunter Brown, 1.74 ERA. The ERA actually went down further from last week. He is the only man standing. Last man standing, Paul Skeens falls out. He's at 2.03. Although I do feel like it is important to mention, Paul Skeens' career ERA now stands at 1.99. So maybe he should still be considered sub 2 ERA crew. But for this season, as of now, it's just Hunter Brown. So if he falters, this segment goes away unless someone else can climb back in. But yeah, just a one-man band. Hunter Brown, congratulations.
One-man band, and we did see the three-man band reunite at a wedding this weekend. I don't know if you saw the highlights, but our friends Jinder Mahal, Heath Slater, and Drew McIntyre all dancing. Some good stuff over there. But speaking of Hunter Brown, there was a conversation and a Twitter poll that you put up there, and you said, quote, if there was an overall MLB Cy Young Award, who gets your vote? And the agreement was almost unanimous for people not voting on Tarek Skubal. I mean, I would love to hear the case why you're not picking Tarek Skubal. You could make the case for the other three choices, but especially what Skubal did these past couple days, it's going away large that he is this transcendent pitcher that we haven't seen in Detroit in a very long time, and he's something special what we're watching.
Yeah, and again, there is always a degree of recency bias with some of these polls. I mean, last week I put the Cal Raleigh versus Aaron Judge AL MVP poll out, and it was like right after Raleigh hit like a home run 4 or 5 days in a row or something, and Raleigh won that vote. I put this one out about 2 hours after Skubal's Sunday Night Baseball start, which was electric. He still probably would have won the poll, but maybe not going away. 73%. I wasn't surprised that he led. I was surprised at how low the numbers of the other guys were. Hunter Brown, 9%, Logan Webb, 12%, Paul Skeens, 6%. Especially surprised that Hunter Brown did not get double digits, because 1.74 ERA, as we just said, and like, where are the Astros if it's not for Hunter Brown? I mean, you could make that argument, but yeah, I'm not going to sit here and try to argue against Tarek Skubal. I cannot do that.
So it's kind of in the same breath here. You also post the question, your bullpen is depleted. You're desperate for a starter to go deep into the game. Which one of these horses are you going with? So the choices were Spencer Swallenbach, not doing much of that nowadays, Brian Wu, Framber Valdez, and Logan Webb. So Logan Webb leading the way 44%, but this was much closer than the other poll.
Yeah, and I thought this was interesting. And Skubal is a horse as well. I could have put him in here, but I wanted to get some different guys in here. And I mean, Webb and Framber, if you look at the last, my guess would be 4 or 5 seasons and look at innings pitched, those two guys are going to probably be at the top. Brian Wu, 6 innings every single start this year, I believe, to me is such an underrated stat that more people should be talking about. Like just the amount of quality starts. And Schwellenbach is another guy, an innings eater. Unfortunately, goes down today with the fractured elbow. I mean, that might finally put the nail in the coffin for the Braves season. Who knows? Maybe not. But if you're Alex Anthopoulos, I think Marcelo Zuna and a few other guys should probably be dealt for whatever you can get. But to stick with it, Logan Webb gets 44%. Framber Valdez gets 17%. I feel like he probably deserves a little bit more. Brian Wu, 28%, and Schwellenbach, 11%. Obviously, that's before the injury. I do think Webb is the correct answer. But, man, like, don't forget how many complete games Framber Valdez has put up there in the last several years. He seems to be one of those guys that knows how to go deep as well.
So some stats on Logan Webb here. Obviously, modern version of a Bulldog starter. He generates soft contact and ground balls at an elite clip, avoids walks, stays efficient. He leads all of MLB in game 7+ innings this season, 8 this season to be exact. And if you look at some of the other stats, his innings pitched per start, 6.7 is the average. His innings pitch is the leader in the NL, 115.2. He's top 5 in MLB with walks per 9 at 1.3. The ground ball rate is also second MLB, 59.4%. The pitch efficiency, 14.8 pitches per inning, and quality starts. Out of the 17 outings, he's had quality starts in 13 of them. So he's your guy. This is the guy who's going to go out there if you need something. The strikeouts aren't eye-popping, but the reliability is unmatched. I don't think you can talk about that. Outside of Brian Wu, like you look at those stats, they're pretty impressive, but Logan Webb is the archetype for it for me.
Yeah, I very much miss Logan Webb. He was a part of a lot of my fantasy teams, and he's not this year. And I don't think it's a coincidence that this has been my roughest year in several years. So, Logan Webb, make your way back to me one of these years, please.
So let's go to our next segment here, contenders and pretenders. All right, so let's take some midseason truth serum here and take a look at the All-Star break being at our doorstep and MLB's playoff race. We got to look at it. It's not just about the standings, it's about direction. We talked about a lot of the teams that are on the rise. They're stalling. Maybe they're hiding flaws behind some timely wins. This right now is the moment where perception starts to fracture, where the true contenders emerge, and the rest are revealed as passengers on this ride towards October. So I looked at some of these teams and I was digging deep. I'll let you start here. Maybe you name a contender, and then I'll volley back with a pretender, and then we'll go back and forth for a little bit.
Sure, that sounds good. So I'm going to start my contender here, and we're trying to go with teams that are kind of on the fringe, right? Whether it be just outside or a little bit inside the playoff picture right now. Not the obvious, like we're not going to say Dodgers, right? But for me, the Brewers are my contender, and I go with a few reasons here. Is base running. All right, there's a BSR rating on Fangraphs here, an analytic look at base running. 11.7 is their rating as a team. Best in the league, and it's not even close. The next best is the Rangers at 6.7. That's 4-point difference there. Pretty staggering. Walk percentage, 9.1%, fourth best, so they can get on base that way. So even though they don't slug, they're going to put people on base. They're patient. And once they get on, we just said it, they're a pain on the base paths. 99 stolen bases, which is third best in the league of a lot of guys that can go double-digit stolen bases. 6.6 defensive rating, one of only 7 teams with a positive rating as a team. 18 OAA, outs above average as a team, which is fourth best. And then a few individuals to point out. Christian Yelich has been one of the best hitters in the league since mid-May, hitting 322 since May 15th with 9 home runs and 34 RBIs, hitting 412 since June 15th. I actually believe he hit another home run tonight against the Mets in the second part of the doubleheader, despite losing that one. If you can keep him healthy, man, like that is your piece. William Contreras has not been the same dude this year. Maybe he can turn it on. So you need another guy to step up and be that power bat. And Yelich is looking like he's doing it. Pray for the back if you're a Brewer fan. And then on the pitching side, they've had Freddie Peralta for a while, kind of maintaining the top of that rotation. You add Jacob Mizorowski. Yes, I know the Mets got to him tonight, but this dude is the real deal. by the eye test and by the looks. Before tonight, people were batting 061 off of him. No other pitcher in the time he debuted was under 100 batting average against. Listen, the Miz and Peralta at the top feel like a threat, a team that could do damage. Since mid-May, they have the fourth best team ERA at 3.41. So I think the Brewers, we know how pesky they can be. They didn't get off to a good start this year, but they're right back in it. I don't think they're going away.
So I'm going to go with a contender because I'm too antsy to talk about a pretender right now. I have to go with the Cincinnati Reds as a contender. And I think they finally stabilized. I think Terry Francona, his presence, his poise is eventually revealing itself. And some of the stats jump out at you, especially looking at the clunky start, the wave of injuries. Look at the depth right now on their team, on their farm bullpen. Of course, everyone's talking about all the good stuff with Chase Burns and then all the excitement that's there. But the return of Matt McLean, the emergence of Reese Hines is important for them. You want some bite behind Elly De La Cruz, one of the more dangerous players in the league. They don't talk about him enough. I feel like you and I continue to wave that banner of like, let's talk about Elly De La Cruz. Let's get him on a big platform. Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo. I know Green is hurt right now. He's on his way back. He first pitched a couple weeks ago, or a month ago, I should say. He went on with the hamstring thing, but it looks like he's throwing simulated innings. But Nick Lodolo, they have legitimate frontline starters. And if they're going to be buyers at the deadline in July, I think they could be dangerous. I think, again, you can't understate the importance of a Terry Francona who's been there before. They sit at 45 and 42. They've raised their run differential to plus 35 right now. Their expected win-loss is 47 and 40, so they're hanging around a very much a winnable division. Right now, they're 6 games back from the Cubs, but that's not to say that they can't rally and get close. But all of a sudden, a very, very interesting NL Central. I know the Cardinals that we like to bury them on here. We don't like what they've done there. I mean, they're sitting at 47 and 41, but I love what the Reds are right now. I think if this team can get hot, I mean, all of a sudden, Great American Ballpark will be bumping for baseball.
Yeah, I hope you're right. That's not a team I expected to hear on either side, to be honest. I didn't feel like either of us were going to feel strongly enough to put them contender or pretender, but I like the outside the box there. And like I said, I mean, there's so much electricity in Cincinnati, whether it be Elly or some of the guys on the pitching staff, that I hope you're right. Get Hunter Green back here healthy, and hopefully he can be healthy for the rest of the season once he comes back. My pretender, I think there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with this. They're up 3-1 right now as we speak against the Arizona Diamondbacks, but I am not convinced on the San Francisco Giants at this point in the season. Obviously, just traded for Devers, which you got to like it, especially because I don't think they gave up that much to get him. But if we look at it as a whole here, 230 team batting average, which is 25th in the league, 371 slug, also 25th in the league. Sure, should that improve with a guy like Rafi Devers in your lineup? Yes, eventually, of course. I will acknowledge their team ERA is the second best in the league, which is obviously nothing to sneeze at. But you know what? The Texas Rangers are up there in team ERA too. And is someone going to get on here right now and tell me they're a contender? I'd have a hard time believing that. The Giants, here's another thing that is not great. 4-10 since the Devers trade. He's been striking out a ton. Listen, he did that in the beginning of the season for Boston too. I think he'll get it figured out. I don't think that's going to be a trend that's going to stick around for a while, but still not a reason to give me hope that they're a legit contender. They're led by the pitching staff, specifically Logan Webb, who we waxed poetic about just a few minutes ago. So no complaints there. Love Logan Webb. Robbie Ray has been great. Here's the thing. Robbie Ray has not thrown over 100 innings since 2022. Okay. He's at 98 right now. I'm going to have to see it to believe it that he can keep this up. I hope he does. I have no reason to root against Robbie Ray or the Giants. I'm just as a skeptic here thinking that they fall in the category of pretender for the reasons that I gave.
I definitely had the Giants on my list as well. I think because of the expectations of the Devers thing, it felt like they should have hit the ground running and been a rocket ship up to where they should be. And it just felt like it's kind of plateaued. And who knows? I mean, there's still a long season to go. Maybe they need a little rest at the All-Star break to get going. But my pretender is the Los Angeles Angels. And again, maybe it's not as surprising that I'm picking them here. And maybe no one even thinks they're a contender. But I think it's justifiably a conversation when you look at some of the stats here. They're only a game under 500. They're definitely hanging around. The run differential says that they are a team that probably shouldn't be winning as many games as they are, but they're playing hard for Ron Washington. You got to give them credit. The foundation for them built on Mike Trout. He has not looked like Mike Trout of old, and that's just sad to me. You want him to go out there and look like himself. Joe Adell, Logan O'Hoppe, they're blooming. You're excited about that. This is a team right now is a little bit more on vibes and some thin margins. And if you look really closely and start diagnosing the numbers, there's been some late game meltdowns, the inconsistent offense or red flags. And I think it would be a beautiful tribute to Ron Washington if they stayed in the race. And we were talking about Terry Francona being the difference, but with Ron Washington, I mean, this team by August will be out of it. I believe. I think they're going to be hanging around for a little bit here just by proxy of what's going on there right now. And the fact that they're a game under 500, you got to be excited. But
yeah,
I don't know. I just don't see this team being a contender.
I'm not convinced yet either. It's just nice to see them not just fold and have a decent season put together past the midway point. Having Trout out there healthy again. I know he was out for a little while, but looks pretty decent now. And there's pieces to be excited about, like you mentioned, O'Hoppe and Joe Adell maybe finally having that coming out party. We've seen signs of it before, but never this extended. Zach Neto is a stud. If you're an Angel fan, you just got to pray that they don't trade him elsewhere. And the pitching side, I think that's what most people probably doubt. But Reed Detmers, who they throw in the bullpen, maybe found his spot. I think they've tried for a long time at getting him to be a starter, and sometimes he looks elite, and then other times he gets blown up. He's been fantastic out of the bullpen. So there are some things to hang your hat on as an Angel fan and at least have a reason to watch and still have some belief and hope past the midway point of the season. That's more than you can say in recent history for the Angels.
Oh, for sure. And I like this segment too. And I think it's going to be more pressing for the next couple of weeks. And I think for the separation, there is a gap of teams that are just right in the middle that we could make the case going either direction. We have a lot of teams at the proverbial fork in the road. Which road are they going down? Are they going to fall down the cliff, or are they going to climb and be the surprise team like we saw with the Tigers last year? I think both paths are very tangible.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Eventually, we're not going to talk about it right now, but we got to make a decision on what we think about the Cardinals. We got to make a decision on what we think about the Padres. Teams like that. We already talked about the Rays and the Blue Jays, who might be above this now, but like those are going to be conversations to be had as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline.
So let's move to take a pitch or swing away. We have two topics that we want to discuss. Let's use this bumper.
Don't swing if it's not in the strike zone.
Where's the strike zone?
Strike two. Right there.
Sit down, Spaz.
That kid's throwing heat.
Heat, Schmeat.
1 out. Gonna be 2 outs.
Hey, I bet you're a real good catcher of donuts in your mouth.
All right, so I realized that we did take away these topics as I'm doing this right now. I wanted to play the bumper so bad, but Devin, let's get your official take on the D-backs and their conversation. And we'll preview next week. We'll go deep into it, but are you seeing the D-backs as a contender or a pretender as we sit here on July 2nd?
All right, so yeah, we were originally going to do a take a pitch swing away with the fact that even though the Diamondbacks have said they want to be aggressive, they should still sell their pieces that are on expiring contracts. And again, I don't want to have a big conversation because I think we'll kind of include them in contenders and pretenders going forward. But my answer as of now, they're about a 500 team, would be I'd swing away at that statement. Yeah, I think it's not everybody, but a Josh Naylor, who was a 1-year deal, a Zach Gallen, if you can get anything for him. He's been really bad this year, but he's on an expiring contract. Unless you have all the chances in the world, if you know you want to bring him back, then that's different. But I have a feeling that's not the case. Maybe the Corbin Burns situation has changed their mind on that. Maybe they do want to bring him back. Maybe they were not going to get any great enough offers to want to move him. We'll see with that. And then there's another piece that I'm not mentioning here. Who's the third guy on an expiring deal here?
Suarez, I think, as well.
Oh, Eugenio Suarez, who is the belle of the ball right now. Everybody wants Suarez. I mean, Yankee fans, Met fans, on and on and on. It seems like there's a lot of need for a power bat, a third baseman. So he's the one guy I think they're going to get some offers where they're going to be like, wow, yeah, he's beloved there in the clubhouse. Fans love him. Could they extend him? Sure. But more than likely they have gotten the best out of him already that he's going to give. So if you get the doors blown off, I think you got to take a bite of those offers.
So maybe we need to have Derek Montilla back on to have a bigger conversation about the D-backs. We will definitely dive more into really are they should be sellers or buyers at the deadline. I think the Carroll injury looms large. The Corbin Burns injury looms large. But as they always say, Josh Naylor, I hardly know her. So we're going to go into our next segment here with our mailbag. We got mail, Devin, and let's talk about like old school AOL. I don't even know. I don't have a bumper. All right, so Baseball Unstitched hopped into our mailbag and they asked us the question that a lot of Braves fans, a lot of baseball fans are asking. And he asked, do you agree with the Braves bringing Profar back, knowing that if it gets them to the postseason, another answer needs to be found? So I'm going to start off here. I mean, bringing Profar back right now isn't about solving Atlanta's problems. It's about stopping the bleeding. If you look at the revolving door right now in left field, it's a disaster. 590 OPS or worse from 5 different fill-ins. Profar's rehab stint right now has shown, despite, again, being suspended, let's lay it out there, he did something wrong here, but this guy has bat-to-ball skills, plate discipline, and contact consistency. You look at 2024, the breakout obviously made him get the money here in Atlanta. His return immediately raises the floor for a lineup that's been shockingly ineffective for all this year. So that said, I mean, this isn't 2023. The Braves are 7 games under 500, 7.5 games back in the wild card. If Profar helps them stay afloat, I think it's great. But if they somehow get back into this October race, they'll need more than this redemption arc in left field. There's more issues out there to worry about just Profar. I think he can stabilize some things. Obviously, he's not going to be in postseason. He's not eligible for it, but they got to get there first. I just think it's a necessary move because this is a course correction. And again, it's a need. It's a revolving door in left field, and there's no other answer. So unfortunately, Profar is going to be rewarded for, even though sitting out and sitting in the penalty box for 80 games, he's going to be waiting with a starting job waiting for him. And that's just how it is.
Yeah, I'll take a little bit of a different approach on this. So the Braves DFA'd Alex Verdugo today, who kind of filled that outfield gap while Profar was gone. Which I'm not sure there's any Brave fan crying about Verdugo. I do think they ended up liking him better than they expected to when they signed him. Here's my thing. You signed Profar. The suspension is up. Are you not going to play him and just eat that money? Of course not. You're going to play the dude. And the other thing to look at is if he can play well up until the trade deadline, he's the perfect piece to sell, right? Like, if you can get AJ Preller on the line and be like, hey, do you want your boy back for the next few months? Like, that's the only commitment you have. Give us something back. I just think that's almost the bigger conversation at this point, because the Braves, I mean, injury after injury and just losing streaks, I don't see them having any chance. I mean, hell, MLB Network today was having a legitimate discussion of should they look to trade Ronald Acuna Jr. And I would say that's clickbait, but like, these guys were taking it seriously, and the conversation's interesting, if nothing else there. But to me, yeah, like, what do you have to lose here? You're paying the dude. I know he can't play in the playoffs, but I don't think the playoffs are your concern now. Put this guy in the field, put him out there every day. If he looks great, someone's gonna call you and offer you something for him.
Yeah, that was my pushback about the Padres thing, because it does make sense. I think there was some vibes there, and VAR, vibes above replacement, was a big thing in San Diego with our boys with Divine Sports Gospel. But it's a true thing. Profar had his best year there. It felt like the perfect fit. But again, if the Padres with postseason aspirations, what he's going to play for a few months, I mean, maybe they feel that way. Let him sit on the bench and be a cheerleader for a bit in October and help him get to that point and challenge and push the Dodgers. It's just a weird spot to be in. I feel like if he's going to be suspended, not eligible for the postseason, just suspend him for the full year. It just feels like a weird, blurry area. Like, why do you want to justify allowing him to play at all if you're not going to let him play the postseason?
Yeah, it is kind of a weird blind spot, I guess. I've never really thought of it that way. But yeah, if you're the Braves, I don't think there's really anything to think about here. So you got to play the guy.
So we also, sort of in our mailbag here, we have the Who Says No segment. So we had 2 trade suggestions that we found on X, and we either are going to roast them or praise them. So let's start with at a Boss Sports Gordo, BOS Sports Gordo, suggest the Red Sox receive Matt Olson, Dylan Lee, and Cam Caminetti, the Braves' #1 prospect. And the Braves in return will get Jarren Duran and Walker Buehler. So Devin, who says no?
All right. So this one, we're gonna rate these 1 out of 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. Like, hey, that's a really good idea, good for both sides. This trade offer is so bad, in my opinion. I mean, the Red Sox are getting all the good stuff. They're getting a great first baseman to fill that hole, Matt Olson. Dylan Lee has been a lights out reliever for the Braves. And Cam Caminiti, you're also getting the prospect, like the really good prospect. And the Braves are getting Duran on a down year and Walker Buehler, who just admitted he's basically on the fringe of being out of Major League Baseball based on the way he's pitching. This is one of the all-time bad offers I've seen. And like one of the it came from a pretty legit account too. I'm not gonna, crap all over them, but I'm giving this a 2 out of 10. I'd give it a 1, but I feel like someone could purposely make a way worse trade offer. So I'm gonna stop at the 2.
Yeah, definitely slamming on the brakes. I mean, you could make the case that Jarren Duran is a good fit for the Braves, and you can have a conversation like, does he fit for not for this package? Because really, Matt Olson, Dylan Lee, but Cam Caminiti, he's just 18 years old, potential frontline starter. Lee, when he's healthy, is a lefty weapon in the bullpen. And oh yeah, you're getting Matt Olson, one of the more controllable first basemen on. I mean, he did get paid, but this is an affordable contract for one of the more elite first basemen. Yes, having a down year, maybe trying to sell him low for whatever reason. The Braves definitely say no, not just because Duran isn't a fit, but the price to get him, it's just way, way too high. But there is a world where Jarren Duran is a nice fit for the Braves lineup if they're contending. But Walker Buehler, I mean, what do you want to go with that? I mean, on a best case scenario, maybe he returns back to 60% of what he was. And even that, it's like this competitiveness that's just going to carry him across the finish line, not worth giving up all that the Braves would be giving up. So yeah, I think this is a bad trade offer.
It's a rough one. Second one here. This involves your team, the Yanks. So it's from the Sleeper Yankees account. Suggested the Yankees receive Jacob deGrom from the Rangers, and in return, the Rangers will get Everson Pereira, the Yankees' 12th prospect, Cade Smith, their 14th prospect, and I might pronounce this one wrong, but Jorbit Vivas, 19th prospect. I will go very quickly here. I don't think this is as bad as the first one. You're getting a guy in deGrom who's pitching great, but is not a youngster, and you are giving up 3 relatively high prospects. I'll give this one like a 4 out of 10. And the only reason is because, first of all, I don't think deGrom wants to go back to New York either way, whether it's Mets or Yankees. Second of all, 3 decent prospects. But if you're going to get deGrom, who's pitching almost like vintage Jacob deGrom, I think you're giving up at least 1 or 2 top 5 prospects, not just top 15 prospects. So that's my feeling. Rangers say no here.
I think the Rangers say no as well. And you mentioned Jacob deGrom coming off Tommy John. I mean, he is pitching like an ace again, 2025, the elite strikeout to walk numbers. And honestly, I mean, there's been some durability since returning, and his value right now is pretty high. That being said, on the Yankee side, you're giving up 3 mid-tier guys. None of right now, if you follow them closely, project as franchise changers. You're not even getting someone from the Yankees top 10, let alone a major league ready impact piece. So I think it's a decent offer for a rental or an innings eater, not for Jacob deGrom. I think, the Yankees would say yes, don't even blink on it. But if the Texas were to move on from deGrom, which is questionable to begin with, it would take a package that's built around, let's start with Spencer Jones. I mean, maybe Chase Hampton, like something like that. It's wishful thinking from at Sleepers Yankees. And I mean, the one common thread between both of these trade offers, look at the handles on both their names of what they're offering. So the Boston fan, the Yankee fan looking to better their team. But this offer was a little bit better, especially that Jacob deGrom's 37 coming off of major surgery. But you got to give up a little more than that. We're in love with our own prospect pool. We're familiar with them. But come on. I mean, even for a Yankee fan, you got to include something bigger if you want an impact arm like Jacob deGrom in the postseason.
Yeah, that's the problem. I know it's tough when it's your team, but you do have to try to put the bias aside and make an even package that legitimately helps both teams. Easier said than done, but we'll go to the last one here, and this is from at Jaker Bronny, Brahny. All right, so the Dodgers receive Emmanuel Clase, Lane Thomas, and then 2 prospects from the Guardians, Joey Oki, who is their 13th prospect, and Jacob Cozart, who is their 14th prospect. And the Guardians receive, in return, Andy Pages. All right, here's my problem with this. Could I see the Guardians Could I see the Guardians look to move a Clase, even though he's got several years left on the contract? Yes, because as we've seen, they very often suddenly realize, we got to move this money. We can't pay this money, right? And Elaine Thomas, whatever. But all right, they're giving up the best player in the deal in Class A, in my opinion. And then they're also giving up prospects. And what they're getting back in return is Andy Pages, who's having a very good year, all-star quality year, and maybe he is legitimately going to be this guy for the rest of his career. It's just not even. Again, there's got to be more on the Dodgers side. If you told me Emmanuel Clase, Lane Thomas, take out the Guardians prospects. So Clase, Thomas, and then the Guardians get Andy Pages and some Dodgers high prospects, I might buy into this deal. They take the money off your hands in Class A. You throw in Lane Thomas, who you're probably not all that tied to for the future anyway. You get Pages, who's a young guy, maybe could be a cornerstone of your offense for a little while, pair him with Jose Ramirez, but also a couple prospects. Then I say this is even. But the way it's built, again, it's just, I don't know if Jake Bronny's a Dodger fan. It certainly reads that way when I read this. I could be wrong. I have to check the account again to really look at it. But the Guardians say no here, and I'll give this one. I'm not going to kill it like the first one, but it's worse than the Jacob deGrom one, so I'll give it a 3 out of 10.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said there. I think it falls in the middle of both deals. I think it's not as egregious as the first one, but a lot of work to be done to make that happen and get across the finish line. But I mean, I give people credit for being creative with the deals and trying their best to find ways and assess in value. I would like to put some of these deals into the trade evaluators. I know there's a lot of AI or systems built out to assess trades and evaluate them, but we'll see if it would be accepted on either side. But I definitely like this segment. I think it's cool to do, and especially it's hard to assess talent the same way that, because again, we're so close to watching your own team and we become very familiar seeing these names, watching the at-bats, watching highlights. It's hard to have a global view, and I think everyone does a little bit of prospect hugging of their own when they look at their own, like, oh, this guy would be great. And I think you need to have a little bit of a more of a neutral stance about how you assess prospects. But again, when you have major league level talent, there has to be something tangible on the other side of it that makes it make sense. And these front offices are smarter than ever. So some of these deals don't pass the sniff test and it won't even get past the first initial phone call.
Oh, here's the shocking part. That last guy, Jake Bronny, used to host something called the Jake Pod. A Guardians fan. Guardians fan. And he's willing to give all that up for Andy Pages. Big Andy Pages guy, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought I'd see some Dodger blue when I went to the account, but this is a Cleveland fan, so I was wrong about that one.
Well, I mean, Andy Paz, like you said, is having a really good year, and
Yeah.
I hate to say it, and this is more of a further conversation. Feels like he's a product of Los Angeles. Like, feels like, doesn't he feel like there's some magic dust sprinkled over him? If you pull him out of that lineup, he signs a big free agent deal somewhere in the future, and he goes somewhere like he gets paid, and all of a sudden the Cinderella, the belle of the ball falls flat.
Yeah, if he was traded to Cleveland, do you think he's matching the production? I mean, again, maybe we shouldn't be. Maybe we're completely wrong, and this dude is a bona fide star, no matter where he goes. But I don't see it yet outside of LA. Let's give him another couple of years.
Well, let's remember that Alex Verdugo and Mookie Betts were on opposite sides of trade deals, and see how that turned out, right?
That's true. Yep.
So let's come around third here for what we're watching for the rest of the weekend. Again, it's 4th of July. We got the fireworks going, and let's talk about the rest of the week in baseball. All right, Devin, as we come around third here again, 4th of July is this weekend. The opportunity of Friday, 4th of July happens every 7 years, or so the math says. We get to enjoy a weekend, 4th of July, hot dogs, hamburgers, barbecuing, and somewhere out there, hopefully I'm wrong, but somewhere out there is enjoying their final night or maybe 2 nights with all 10 fingers, right? I mean, there's got to be someone out there. I'm sorry. Like, I saw a meme like that. Somewhere out there, someone always makes the mistake, dude. I still remember the Dodgers World Series parade, and this dude, you saw that video, right? That video was insane.
Yeah, it's terrible.
You had no idea where I was going with that.
No, I had no idea. I saw a meme earlier that I thought was going to be one of those announcements of like reminder fireworks safety, and said like, here's a public service announcement. Nobody's going to watch your videos you take of the fireworks or something like that. So we went in a different direction than I thought it was going to be. As far as what I'm looking now at our fantasy league. That is what I'm looking at as the road ahead. During the episode, I don't know if you pushed the button to accept it or if you had offered it and she accepted, but you traded with the one manager in our league that at times have seemed to be completely locked off of trading no matter what the offer was. You sent Nolan Arenado, Colt Emerson, and Lazaro Montez to our friend Karen, who is, I believe, like 1-10, 1-11 outside of the playoff picture. And she is sending you back Manny Machado and Mick Abel. Just a quick reaction, gut reaction before I can really analyze it and look at the rosters. I don't mind it for her. I certainly don't mind her giving away Machado. What's the use for a team that needs to rebuild? I like her getting Emerson and Montez. I'm very surprised she's letting a young pitcher go in that deal with what she has to kind of think about for the future. But obviously Lazaro Montez and Colt Emerson, both in the Seattle franchise, not bad gets for her. I would have liked it more for her if she didn't give up Mick Abel.
Yeah, so I was negotiating with her for a bit here. Mick Abel, of course, has I wanted more of the ready now, and Mick Abel has flashes of that in Philly, and we're excited for him. He's more of the building piece. I actually was looking at someone like Brady Singer, maybe someone else. But to me, it was the Manny Machado piece. I wanted to upgrade at third. I need offensive help. Jeremy Peña being hurt, Corbin Carroll. But she was aggressive. I originally offered Lazaro Montez and Carson Williams, and she pushed back. She wanted Colt Emerson. So I was hesitant to trade both of them. I'm super high on Lazaro Montez. Like, he's a guy I really value. We talked about Yordan Alvarez beginning of the show. A lot of the comps have him being similar. His arrival time is pretty imminent as far as being there in the bat, and he's exciting. But for me, it's all about winning my first championship, and Machado gives me the best option to do that. He's reliable. And again, my team is facing a plethora of injuries, just like every other fantasy team. I guess cry me a river, right, everybody? But my IL right now is just a who's who. Jeremy Peña, Alex Bregman, Corbin Carroll, and then I got, Bryce Miller still hanging out on the IL as well. So it's a problem, the injuries out there, and I had to make a decision. Manny Machado, not usually the player I target in any draft, but he's having a good year, and he's definitely filling a void for me. Nolan Arenado was serviceable all year, but definitely a guy I'm not too upset to see go. So, and shout out to Karen for making a deal. That, this is a team that need to make a deal. She can't keep Tucker and Machado, so if she decided to keep Tucker, Machado was expendable.
Yeah, no, I like that she was looking towards the future and trying to get a few pieces that she wanted there. So I don't know. Maybe this is the first. I just said yesterday, I feel like this is the least trade activity in our fantasy league that I can remember, whether it just be chatter or actual deals. But sometimes all it takes is one domino to fall, and all of a sudden other pieces start to fall. So I'll be interested to see what happens in the next couple weeks here.
Yeah, and I was certainly having conversation with her for a bit. It's been ongoing that I've been trying my best to have conversations about Machado, looking at him as I targeted. But what I'm watching over here is the Mets. And I mean, they're absolutely reeling. I mean, went back to the weekend. They got embarrassingly swept by the Pittsburgh Pirates, getting outscored 30-4 over 3 games. They at one point looked like a division lock 2 weeks ago. And they need to look to stop the bleeding at home against the Yankee Subway Series. There would be eyes on it for sure, but now even more eyes because of the fact the Mets are coming in limping, losing again tonight to the Brewers. So we'll see if the antidote is a big game against the Yankees coming up this weekend. The other thing I am watching, and it's happening probably in real time as we speak. Let me just check the scores here as far as time goes. We have some history watch. Clayton Kershaw starting tonight just was 3 strikeouts away, shy of 3,000 at Dodger Stadium. Do we have an update on that, Devin?
The last time I saw it, I actually have it on the background on MLB Network. They had a little note before that said he's two strikeouts away. That was about 10 minutes ago, and I kind of took my eyes off it since then. So I'm not sure if he's gotten anybody else, but it's coming close.
All right, I'm pulling up he has 2 Ks, so he's 1 strikeout away, so 2,999 Ks. in general, I mean, 20 pitchers in Major League Baseball history have reached this milestone, and if Kershaw does it under these circumstances against the White Sox, he's the fourth to notch number 3,000 with a single franchise. So the other three players, Walter Johnson, Bob Gibson, and Steve Carlton, pretty damn cool. And Clayton Kershaw, certainly a Hall of Fame career. We're watching something special. Not as dominant as he used to be, but when you start reaching up these compilation stats, reaching numbers like 3,000 strikeouts, it's something to behold. So if you guys have not seen it yet, hopefully he has done it. No guarantee, but eventually he will get that 3,000 strikeout, and definitely a fitting crescendo to really one of the more enduring careers in baseball. Clayton Kershaw, one of the greats, last of a dying breed as far as the starting pitchers going deep into games, an absolute bulldog of his day. So shout out to Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah, not going to see a lot of that, if any, in the future going forward. So pretty cool. And listen, I know we're closing it out here, but I just want to let you guys know whether we're back in exactly a week or it's a little more than a week. I appreciate you guys being patient. I have plenty of time on my hands to be active on social media and X. And so, play along with me there. But next week, whenever we're back, I will be back with a brand new Achilles heel. So we'll see. Maybe I'll be a little more lively and see how I feel next week.
Well, Devin, all the best to you and getting your procedure done. I know that it's something that's probably a little bit nerve-wracking, but I'm sure you're going to be excited to be back on your feet and rehabbing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be locked up doing probably nothing at all for at least 2 weeks before they give me the clearance to start doing a little something. But I'll be excited just to get the process rolling, because so far I've just been sitting here and I feel like you're just waiting for the surgery because you can't really make any progress until that happens.
So if you go to Sports Illustrated, they dropped the article of Aaron Rodgers, September 16th, 2023. Aaron Rodgers believes Dolphins having sex could actually heal his torn Achilles. So if you want to check it out, around there, fourth play of his first drive with the Rodgers, the famous stuff. And tell the story how you tore the Achilles, Devin. You never told it. Yeah, I mean, I know you're playing basketball with your nephew,
not
correct? That was what's going on.
Yeah. Literally, that's the story. Not even like a game of one-on-one. So my two nephews that are 5 minutes away were playing, just shooting around in their hoop in the street. And I went out there and the whole family was out there. And I said, oh, we should do family knockout. Knockout's the best basketball game out there, in my opinion. And no one bit. No one. I thought we were going to play and no one bit. So I stayed aside too. I had flip-flops on. That's my first mistake. And then 10 minutes went by and I was one of the boys said, come on, who's playing? And I jumped in thinking other people would follow me. No one did. So I shot pretty bad first shot, got the rebound and tried to rush a shot up, because you don't want to get knocked out, and missed again. And then my next attempt, which was probably a catch and try to jump up and shoot really quick. My right foot, it felt, I knew what happened not right away, but seconds after it, because I've heard about this so many times. Even back when Kobe Bryant tore his, I remember him saying he felt like someone stepped on his heel, and then he looked back and no one was within 10 feet of him. It felt like I immediately thought one of my nephews kicked a big rock that ended up hitting my heel because we were in the street. That was the sensation, a big rock, hard. And then I looked back and neither of them are close to me. And I said, someone hit me someone kick a rock, and no one knew what I was talking about. And then it just washes over you, the sports fan in me hearing about these injuries, and you start panicking. I sat down and tried to get back up with some help a few minutes later and felt like I was going to pass out. They said I looked just as white as can be, lips blue. So obviously sat back down, laid back down for a while, trip to the emergency room, next day trip to the orthopedic, and then MRI. I've been in a lot of doctors' offices in a short amount of time. So no fun. I do not recommend it to anybody.
So do you believe it's a wear and tear thing? It would have happened no matter where you were? It was destined to go?
I think if it did it that easily, it must have been pretty close to ready to go, and maybe it would have happened somewhere else or during something else, because I'm on my feet all the time. PE teacher on my feet. I mean, 5 and 2-year-old boys, so I'm always up with them. So it might have been a matter of time. I've had a lot of leg problems in the past. They said the MRI showed tendinosis, which is wear and tear, mini tears in the calves and Achilles. So there was definitely stuff on there that made it more likely. And my only fear is if that was there in the right leg, do I have some of that in the left leg? God forbid. But I don't think there's any knockout in my future anytime soon. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, it also has to do. I mean, you are a righty, correct?
I'm a righty. Yeah, I can't
Yeah,
drive.
so you're favoring that foot too, and I think
Sure.
I don't. I mean, I don't know what the science is of it, but like you have to be favoring that side. So I think you're less like. I mean, maybe you can be favoring your left side a little bit more now that your right is injured. Who knows how that goes? But
Yeah.
you're right, dude. It's something to think about, and especially as we get older, you take for granted. I mean, all the backyard wrestling you used to do, all those baseball games you would just pick up playing European handball, whatever you wanted in the summer. Like no worries,
Yeah.
man. Just hopping in there
Dude,
and.
it is very strange, and I'm sure a lot of people, listeners, will agree that it's like I feel pretty much as athletic, and in some areas more athletic than I always was or have been, but it's just doesn't come without consequences happening so much easier. And like I've been more responsible. I was coaching at a track meet about a month and a half ago, and the guy running the meet said, "Oh, we're going to do a coach's relay." And I felt really tight that day, and I've had a lot of leg injuries. And I said no. I had 40 kids pressuring me to do it, and I said I cannot, because I'm just picturing myself like popping a hamstring on this track as your coach in front of hundreds of people. It's not going to happen. And I stuck to my gun. So it's not like I'm completely irresponsible about realizing my age and the wear and tear. I'm pretty decent at that, but there is now a reason I can see. The reason so many people take up sports like golf and stick to that after a certain age is shit like this. I actually had a tee time scheduled the next day, and it would have been my first day of summer out golf, and had to cancel that. But I don't know. And the other thing is, I hear a lot of people playing pickleball as a less aggressive version of tennis. You wouldn't believe how many people I've seen on Reddit in the Achilles rupture thread. Yes, that exists, saying that they ruptured their Achilles playing pickleball. So anyone listening out there, don't think pickleball is a free ride.
And there's no healing of that without, it has to be surgically repaired, right?
Well,
There's no.
so there are some people that go the non-operative route. I think sometimes it depends how far apart the rip is, or if it's completely ripped. Mine is 100% rupture. But I also feel like when you really look at it, the people that go the non-operative route, I feel like I've read a lot more incidences where like they're going through physical therapy and then they eventually re-tear it anyway. In my mindset, like if there's that possibility, I'm just going to do the surgery right away. I'm not saying there's zero shot. There's like a 4% rate of re-rupture. But yeah, any of you guys out there that want a education on Achilles rupture, I'm pretty well versed in that now.
Devin's diving deep in the AMAs on a subreddit for ruptured Achilles over here, so he's
That's
well
my life
attuned
right
with
now.
it. Yeah, Dr. James Andrews with the arm surgeries, Dr. Devin Milligan with the ruptured Achilles type of info. But if you guys want some exclusive updates, not just about Achilles and pro wrestling and all those things, you can follow us at Table Sitters Pod on Instagram and Twitter. Support the show. You can like, subscribe, share all our things if you like the conversation, and I hope you do. Baseball is what we love. Baseball is what we're talking about. So do your best, share it with a friend, tell a new listener. If you're out there for the first time listening, we appreciate you. Please leave a 5-star review. It goes a really long way. We're trying to reach everybody's ears as we talk about the thing we love, and it's baseball, baby.
Yeah, man. Thanks for joining us. Almost 2 hours in. That's probably a record. Hopefully you guys put this on like 1.3x and you guys are good to go. But a lot of conversation. Baseball's front and center, man. Like it's tough not to have these long conversations now.
And we didn't play this, but we definitely
have the meats.
For sure. A lot of meets today, but we will be discussing all things next week. As we mentioned, best of luck to Devin for his surgery. We'll be back probably around Thursday next week with an episode drop, really previewing the All-Star Game, getting ready for all the festivities in Atlanta, all the conversations around there, the home run derby. Maybe we have the lineup of what's going on in the home run derby, who's taking center stage. Will Pete Alonso go and defend his illustrious favorite thing to do every time out there? We'll see. But we'll be back soon talking all things baseball. We appreciate you guys. And at that time, we will talk to you after a while.